Attention, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am here to announce that there is a little bit of a delay that we are experiencing, and we will start in not more than 10 minutes. But we are just trying to make sure that our panelists settle so that we can begin our program. Thank you very much. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Atenkosi Patrick Jaxa. I'm working for the Electoral Commission of South Africa in the Nelson Mandela Bay as the local electoral project officer. I wish to welcome you today, even though there is someone who is tasked to do the welcoming on the day. I will be directing this program, and it is pleasing to see as many as young people that is in attendance today, because this program, as you can see, that it is aimed at informing and also interacting with the youth of the Republic of South Africa with regards to many issues that is under the umbrella of democracy. As we all know that the IEC is the institution that is mandated in terms of the Chapter 9 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa to strengthen this democracy. And it is pleasing that the young people have shown interest in participating in events such as this one. You will all know that in South Africa, we are still at an era where the voting is happening, but the turnout is not as pleasing as we would have loved. It is now important that we explore, as the Electoral Commission of South Africa, some other ideas and things that will make voting to be interesting, as well as being very easy and easy. The young people of the Republic of South Africa has been found as people who are not showing much interest in participating in election. Today we will be discussing issues around the e-voting, electronic voting. As much as the Electoral Commission of South Africa has embarked in many journeys to ensure that voting is easy, I think it is important that we hold the gatherings such as this one to ensure that as much as there will be presentations that will be made here, and the youth, it is encouraged that you also give us the feedback in questions that you will be asking here. So maximum participation is encouraged as we'll be beginning this very important program. By so doing, I wish to announce the following slight changes on our program. As I will be directing this program, it will be slightly different from the one that you have, and I wish to single out the following. On our speakers, we have received the apology from the University of Nelson Mandela for Professor Van Grienen, who will not be part of us today due to the emergency that is health related, and we wish to take this opportunity and wish her the speedy recovery. And also for a CETA representative, there will be a slight change there because a person who is on the program, that is Ms. L. Komna, will be replaced by Mr. Nelson Celisa. So that is the changes that we have in our program. And also for the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, which is ICASA, we will receive the presentation online as it is now arranged on the screen there. So without any further ado, I wish now to begin with our program and invite a person who will be doing the welcome and introductions for this particular program. And I now, can you please join me in welcoming Ms. Fikiswa Join, who is the Regional Assistant Manager in the Nelson Mandela Region IEC, to give us introductions and welcome. Can you give her the round of applause?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ufikiswa Wakwa-Join. I am the regional supervisor in the Electoral Commission in the Nelson Mandela Municipality. Today, we are joined by our guest speakers. With me, I have Mr. A. Kanti from East Cape Midlands. Can you just show your hand so that the student can recognize you? And we have Mr. A. Sajini from Entity Data. With us, we have our senior manager from the Provincial Office, manager of the province, Mr. Maki. We have a representative, Mr. El Mukwena from ICASA. We have Mr. Esanda Nodada from the Electoral Commission, our communication officer from East London. We have Ms. Jason, who is our senior outreach officer in the Nelson Mandela Metro office, IEC office. We have our IEC staff from the Nelson Mandela. If colleagues, can you stand up so that they can see your faces? And we also have a representative from the institution, which is the managers of the institution. If we do have someone with us, if you can stand up also. Okay, you can stand up, ma'am, please. We have also the campus manager that is entering the venue now. Ma'am, if you can stand up so that the management of IEC can recognize you. To our distinguished guests, respected speakers that are within us today, the valued partners, and the most important, our youth participants, which is the student, and those that are joining us online platforms. It is both an honor and a privilege to open this youth dialogue on e-voting, a timely and essential conversation that brings together the voices of our future, our youth with evolving mechanism of our democracy. As we gather here today, we recognize the profound importance of civic engagement in shaping the civic engagement that is inclusive, transparent, and accountable governance. In an age where technology continues to transform nearly every aspect of our lives, the process of e-voting, our most fundamental democratic right, must also evolve to meet the needs and the expectation of the new generations. The e-voting presents both challenges and opportunities. It offers the potential for greater accessibility, efficiency, and participation. But it also demands a rigorous dialogue on issues such as digital security, voter education, and data privacy, and the public trust. These are not only the technical concerns, they are civic questions that require the insight. That is innovation, integrity of young people. This dialogue is an opportunity not only to learn, but to lead. Your perspectives are vital in shaping the systems that are representative, equitable, and future-ready. By participating in today's discussion, you are helping to build a democratic culture that is resilient, responsive, and reflective of your generation's values. On behalf of the Electoral Commission, I would like to extend the sincere thanks to all those who made this event possible, our partners, organizers, and contributors. I thank each of you for your presence, your curiosity, and your commitment to democratic engagement. As we begin, I encourage you to speak openly, listen respectfully, and challenge thoughtfully. May today's dialogue serve not just as a discussion, but as a step forward in the ongoing journey towards a more participatory and empowered society. Once again, welcome, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring session ahead. I thank you.
Thank you very much to the Regional Assistant Manager for Nelson Mandela IEC. Can we sicela siphinde simzame ngezandla? Thank you very much. At this point in time, I wish to invite the Regional Outreach Officer for the IEC in the Nelson Mandela region, Ms. Lynn Jason, who will give us the purpose of the session. Can we also give her a round of applause as she is taking the stage?
Good morning, everyone. Today, my duty is just to give you a purpose of the event. I'll try not to be long, but just the background of electoral voting, or why we are here today. The Electoral Commission has carried out several investigations into e-voting. It's aimed at learning from the global experiences of countries that have either successfully or unsuccessfully tried to implement e-voting. We explored issues such as available technologies, costs, security, reliability, public trust, existing tech infrastructure in South Africa, and policy options, among others. We've identified the need for thorough public dialogue, discussions on the feasibility or the potential and of risks, benefits, and risks. We have compiled a discussion document based on findings from our 2023 IEC research study on electronic voting, which explored prospects and potential challenges for e-voting in South Africa. Now, just a background, e-voting can increase accessibility, but it also raises issues such as security, privacy, and trust. Ensuring transparency and reliability remains crucial for the Electoral Commission. There are several countries that have adopted different e-voting systems, notably examples from India, Brazil, and the USA, which use poll site e-voting, while Estonia implemented successful online voting systems. Estonia is the only country that is currently utilizing the online e-voting system. in their 2023 election, over 50% of the votes were cast online. Estonia's experience shows how digital technology can transform electoral processes. Now, just for today, we'd like to look at the questions on how can young people help shape the future of our democracy through the integration of technology. So the purpose for today's event is to explore that question by looking at the idea of electronic voting as a tool to modernize our democratic processes and increase youth participation. Through keynote insights, panel discussions that we will have today, and the interactive dialogue, we will be unpacking not just what if, but also how technology can be responsibly integrated into voting, how to ensure digital inclusion, and how you, as young youth South Africans, can lead this transformation. Ultimately, this event is about empowering, as we've heard earlier, through engagement. It's about recognizing that youth are not just the next generation of voters. You are the current generation of change makers. So we invite you to listen, to speak up, and to challenge, and to imagine the future of democracy is being written, and it starts with conversations like this. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jason. And that was the outreach officer for the IEC in the Nelson Mandela region. I'm sure now you have a clue of what is the purpose of this session. And you were also encouraged, particularly as the young people, to ensure that you take time and engage and also take part in this very important session. So now we are about to go to our speakers that I have just mentioned today, and it is where now I will encourage you to give your more attention so that you can be able to note everything that you would have loved to ask. Remember, in South Africa, we are voting using the papers. Do we all agree? In other countries, they are using the electronic voting, countries like America. Do we all agree? So South Africa now is at a stage where we want to hear from all stakeholders, including the ordinary citizens of this country, to see whether do they see the e-voting as something that we can pursue as the Republic of South Africa. I'm just giving you the food for thought as we will be going to our speakers of the day. Before going to the speakers, I wish to also say that, you know, as a country, I was born in 1989. And when the first democratic elections happened in the country, I was still very young to take part in those elections. But through the research and other ways, I can be able to tell you, to say that really voting was never easy during 1994. And it becomes more easier and easier. I will just take you to that a display desk there, where you see that steel ballot box. That is the box that was used in 1994 during elections. And then it evolved to be the one that you see it down there, where it is now the box that looks better than that. If you can see there, you also see that blue device where it's called zip scanner. It used to be used for voting, but now it's becoming more digital and being replaced by that beautiful screen that you see there, where now we are using it as voter management device. Now South Africa is at a stage to explore the possibilities for the going more digital in terms of managing the elections. So now we are at a time where we will get the short discussions from from our panelists, and the theme, as you can see it there, it says that the role of youth in shaping the future of democracy through the electronic voting. And now our speakers, our first speaker, as you can see there, is Mr. Kanti. Remember, I have also apologized for Professor Van Grienen, who is not feeling well today. And the person that I'm about to introduce now is the managing director at the Banzo Type Technologies. Prior moving into business, he worked for reputable ICT companies such as Dimensions Data, known as NTT today, the data-centric, etc. The highlights of his career was to be the ICT team that deployed, to be part of the ICT team that deployed the infrastructure for the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in preparation for the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Mr. Kanti is married with 3 girls and loves South Africa, most importantly. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome on the stage Mr. Kanti, who from the East Cape Midland College, who will give us the short presentation today. Can you give him a round of applause as he is taking the stage? Thank you. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, I nearly said young people, but I think for the purpose of today, I'll also include you on the title that says colleagues. I hope that all of you will take advantage of the opportunity that you have to be part of a discussion that allows you to give an input in shaping the future of South Africa. But before we start, because yesterday we had a public holiday which spoke to Heritage Day, maybe just to properly then introduce myself in line with that, let me say, igama lam ndingu-Andile Kanti, ndingumgqwashu, ndingugqiya, ndingulawo, ndingumanzini, ndizalwa ngumampinga, usenzwa, umawawo. My wife, Mrs. Kanti, ngumampondo, nguthahla, ngundayeni, uhlamba ngubende. Well, the rest, uzalwa ngumamnywabe. I think that would be sufficient enough, in relation to that. I'm very proud to be a South African. I'm very proud of my culture. Issues that pertain to South Africa, sometimes they can be very emotional, and sometimes they require us to put emotions aside in order for us to come with solutions that can work with our societies and our communities. When I was, asked to come and speak here, and they mentioned to me, what is this all about? I thought, oh, I see, IEC panel discussion, and they spoke about something about voting. I quickly, in my mind went back, when there's going to be elections, then they go from hall to hall and have political parties, and they just roast each other, about what they don't do good and do good. I thought of that, and so the fear kicked in. And I was quickly put on ease to say, no. But that's not really what this is about today. Today it's just about your contribution from an ICT perspective, Are we ready for e-voting? And if we're not ready for e-voting, what are some thoughts or things that we could think about as South Africa as we embark on this? So I'm not going to be very long, and I do not want you to fall asleep. And I'm going to try my best not to use, I see I'm not the only person from an IT background. Some of my colleagues here, people, when we speak about, these IT jargons, people quickly, they go off discussion, and we see them, either falling asleep or leaving. So that's not my intention. My intention is just to use a language that all of us will understand, and hopefully, I could give some sort of an input or two on this. And if not, I do apologize in advance for then wasting your time. So what did I do when I heard about this? I spoke to some of my friends and colleagues that are at your age, some of them, and some of them are in my age. And the very first thing, those that are in your age, when I said, or you elect the leaders that you want for the benefit of your own future, and then there was a moment of silence there, that all of a sudden, what I was saying to them is that regardless of the status of, what you see in our country, if you want to make a voice, specifically your voice, to be heard, you must vote. We know in South Africa, in terms of looking at numbers, that a lot of you do vote, but you vote on WhatsApp, you vote on Facebook, you vote on Twitter, you vote on Instagram, and you vote on all these beautiful platforms, except to where it matters the most. You do not vote, largely the youth, in IEC. Now, there could be a number of those issues, and I think that's what will be unpacked today, to say, why then are we not voting as a youth? I mean, a few of you have a lot of good ideas. You have leaders of your own that you'd like to see in our government structures leading South Africa, but your voice ends up only on Facebook, in short, in social media, but it's needed on IEC. Then we shifted the discussion to talk, I was like, let's talk about the current voting system. Does it work for us? Does it have any challenges? If it's not working for us and it needed to be changed, what could be those changes, that could be implemented or we should talk about? Of course, when it comes to young people, them and technology, they are like this, members of the same WhatsApp group. If you take technology away from the youth or the young people, you'll have some struggles there. Attracting those numbers, it's going to be a nightmare for you. Then we said, okay, let's look at the current system in terms of the voting in South Africa. I think largely all of us were aware that we are still, a paper-based voting nation. So you get a ballot paper and then you vote on it. But what does that process look like, and what are some challenges with it when it comes to the numbers of the youth that are not coming out to vote? One, the youth, they love conveniency. And for them to see that long queue on the voting day, it sort of discourages them. So one, they have to go to a voting station. So physically, you must be there. And when you get there, the process is also sometimes a little bit longer. I vote, and I take a couple of hours, for me to cast my X on whatever party choice I would be making. You spend the whole day there, and this is not something that is aligned to them. The young people these years, they're used to getting in and out, do it now and sit now. So we do need to move to a system, platforms that are going to allow us to include everyone, including this group that we say that doesn't vote. Now, speaking to why we are here today, the e-voting system, how does this look like and what are some benefits? But also, there are two sides of the coin as well. In as much as there are benefits to it, there are also some challenges. I don't want to say disadvantages. There are some challenges with it as well. Some countries were mentioned here where the e-voting system was implemented successfully. But also, truth be told, there are some countries, including the US, who have implemented the e-voting system where they've had some notable challenges on the system. I mean, if you really need a reference, go back to Donald J. Trump's first term in terms of what happened, and also when Joe Biden came in and won the elections, and the outcry in relation to where the digital system was used. So in as much as we've got some successes, there are also some challenges attached to this idea. But it doesn't mean that we have to throw everything out of the window and say that bring it back only when it's perfect. It requires all of us to work on it so that we get it, to a place or to a level where we can be comfortable that it is actually working. So let's go to it. What are some, few points that talk to, the good side to it, or, the selling points to the e-voting, or the advantages of stuff that might work? I've spoken about one is convenient and accessibility, If anything would reduce my time that I spend in voting, meaning I can go in and out, or I can vote in less than a minute or less than a speed of sight, I know that young people would like that. Internet platforms and digital platforms, they allow us to do that you go in and out. The second one is the speed and efficiency. From an IEC perspective, it takes days, if not weeks, for them to collect and announce results, because this process largely is done manually, So all of us were sitting there for a week or two waiting for the results to come out. There has been some talks, not officially, unofficially, and I don't want to deter anyone from voting, but also through those manual processes, there are possible opportunities for deficiencies as well in counting. We know about human factor, I perform best when I'm healthy, focused, and I feel good. What happens on the day when I'm not healthy, focused, and feeling good? After counting 1,000 votes or dealing with 1,000 processes, am I still at my best, to make sure that I provide verifiable and good, accurate results? It's a question that, could be left to us to answer. But so far, we've managed to move from election to election unscathed or with minimum scars, if I may put it that way. How about, verifiability and improvements for, cryptography? Well, anything that you put in a digital platform or system, the risk that is attached to it, that, let's put it in a language that you'll understand, it could be hacked. Talk about cybersecurity, There are means and ways today that are so advanced to mitigate that risk today. The risk of having, mitigating being hacked versus the risk of me not counting accurately. I could choose the one that I could, manage it via IT systems and digital systems. And I'm not saying that this is perfect, because on the security side and the cyber side of things, in as much that we have issues, as IT professionals, we continue to take those problems and those issues, and largely, by the way, it is not a reactive approach. It is a preactive approach. We preempt largely what could be a cybersecurity risk that we might be facing in relation to services or technology that might come into the industry. And we work on it, before it even goes out. So we have known problems when it comes to sort of cybersecurity, but also there are solutions that could mitigate that risk. How about inclusion, of everyone? When it comes to the digital systems, ideally is that through that system, you would reach everyone and anyone. Okay, and I'm going to say this with caution, that ideally is that you can reach anyone and everyone. This is an advantage to those that have access to the tools to access the system. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me give you an example. Is that if there is any program, educational program or health program that I need to administer to people via the internet or via a system, right? Because internet reaches a large area and a large group of people, right? We should be able to have a larger and a broader footprint. That's an advantage. The upside to that one is that not everyone in reality has tools that will enable them to access those services. What am I talking about? It could be that to access the service, I may need internet connectivity. Does everyone have tools to access the internet in South Africa? The answer there is no. Those that have tools to access internet connectivity Are they able to access the internet each and every time that they want to? We know that data is expensive in South Africa, so the answer there is no. We also know, so I'm talking now to the upsides, I forgot to say that. We also know that in terms of technology, inclusivity of everyone, not all provinces or areas in the provinces have access to the infrastructure that is required for us to enjoy proper internet connectivity. Is that a positive thing or a negative thing? It depends on how you look at it. I think today's session is designed that we talk about these issues so that we can then come up with some solutions that are workable for us. So that's one, inclusivity. Can everyone be included in it? I think largely South Africa has done very well to make sure that we become a country that is improving in pursuing a digital transformation agenda, but in as much as we've made some good grounds, but we are not there yet. We still have some ground to cover. And then secondly, I also mentioned about security, that even though that we have these measures that we put in place to make sure that whatever systems and technologies that we bring to people that might be hacked, that are used as tools to prevent that. However, though, the perception that people have about technology, some of them, as soon as you talk about technology and security, they take too long to move on with times, because the risk of them being invaded by unauthorized people, it appears as if to them, it's something that they cannot get over it. I'll give you a practical example. In banking industry, they have now moved a lot forward with digital transformation in terms of your EFTs and your applications and. But we still have a lot of people that are still not so fond of these services, because they feel that of the stories that they hear, and some of them are not even real stories. Now, the other factor that we may need to take a look at is from a legislative point of view. Now that I've mentioned that you have a group of people that have access to infrastructure and good technology, whereas you might have others that may not necessarily have infrastructure and the technology. A typical example, there are some areas, if you go to Mthatha rural areas, where there's no connectivity there. There are some areas where you go to Limpopo, Tzaneen, Lenyenye, where there's no connectivity there. There are even some areas, if you go to Mpumalanga or Free State Province, KZN provinces, where they are so rural that there is no internet connectivity. You even struggle to reach your own friends via Facebook and WhatsApp. Now, from a legislative point of view, elections must be free and fair. Now, if we were to introduce, e-voting at this stage, how would that look like? Would we talk about a hybrid approach where we still say, let's have both the manual system be part of our electoral system, and also integrate the digital platform, which is e-voting, to give people more options? From that statement alone, you may derive a point or a notion that those elections may not be free and fair necessarily, because you've got people that will have two options, you'll have people that will have one option, based on the lack of infrastructure that is required for this e-voting system. So there are a number of things that we need to visit and think about around this topic. The other one is, let's say we also move forward with e-voting. The other risk that is there, that from a legislative point of view, ICASA may need to talk about, is the issue of skills and expertise. Can you guarantee us as South Africans that you have expertise from an IT point of view that can develop and administer uninterrupted, trustworthy, verifiable elections that we could use for electing leaders? Or is this a question that we still need to answer? In South Africa, if you didn't know, from a public sector point of view, largely, even though they have people that work in IT, they still outsource quite a lot of products and solutions that they need. That is at a local government, provincial government, and also at the national government. Now, if this system is not owned by government, right, it is owned by a third party, meaning a private sector company. You know, are we at a risk of being at the mercy of this particular company? And if we are, how can we mitigate this risk? No. So there are a number of issues that we may need to look at and talk about as we explore this. A lot of them I can talk about them maybe when we do a question and answer session. But these were just some of the basic conversations I've had with this group of people that I was talking about in presenting this. At the end, though, the decision, or at least the notion that we had, was that regardless of which system we are using, two things must happen. One, young people, you must continue to vote. And if you have not been voting and neglecting your democratic right to vote, and only vote on Facebook, WhatsApp, and other social media platforms, change your mind and change your perception so that your voice could be heard. Secondly, in as much as the technology or the e-voting system, you know, might not necessarily be the best product in the world when it comes to South Africa, it does not mean that we need to throw it away and only stick to what is working. We must take that and be able to move on with times. So hopefully next time, maybe not necessarily in 2026, but hopefully next time, when someone introduces the topic about e-voting, we won't talk about examples, successful examples that exist in Estonia, in the US, in Brazil, in India. Hopefully very soon, we'll talk about examples that include South Africa and successful examples from South Africa. I do think that our country has a lot of potential. I do think we do have the necessary skills in the country to actually assist with this discussion so that it can move forward to a level whereby we can put it in our system and use it to vote with. I do think that young people, this can help them, but not only young people, but people in the rural areas, if we have the right discussions, make the right decisions, and take the necessary steps, I do think that the future of South Africa will be brighter. Everyone will have an opportunity to elect a leader that they so choose to lead them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The future of South Africa would be brighter with the technological infrastructure if we can have. Thank you so much. Now we are moving to the next panelist, and he is from ICASA. ICASA is the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa. When I explain that state-owned entity to someone, I say it's one of the sister Chapter 9 institutions. And if you don't know ICASA, just check your cell phone at the back and tell me if you won't see the word ICASA. To those who are in the management, in the electoral management space, I would say to them when I'm explaining who ICASA is and say, go to the VMD, voter management device at the back, and tell me whether you won't see the word ICASA. That's the simple way that I explain as to who ICASA is. The person that I'm about to introduce now is a person who is a cybersecurity analyst, the ICT policy and regulation expert, and the international standards liaison. He is a seasoned professional with 21 years of experience in ICT, policy development and regulation, having worked for both government and ICASA. He began his career at the Department of Communications in 2002, where he contributed to the legislative and policy landscape that would shape the country's digital future. He was actively involved in the development of the legislations, including the Electronic Communication and Transactions Act 25 of 2002 and Electronic Communication, on international roles and representation. Our guest speaker, our next speaker, worked as the liaison officer at ITU, Joint Coordination Activity and Artificial Intelligence, including machine learning. African Regional Coordinator, as well as the member of South Africa 5G Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, in terms of education qualifications, I will mention just few. He holds a Master's of Commerce in Information Management from the University of Western Cape, as well as the postgraduate diploma in management from the University of Cape Town. He has got a long list of qualifications here that I will not all list due to time. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Mr. Silas Posoko, who is from the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, and we will request that our technical team to play the presentation, and he is joining us from Centurion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Program Director. I don't know whether the presentation has been projected on your site. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. You may proceed.
Are you seeing my presentation?
All right, the technical team has just requested that we must tell you to project from your side, if it's possible.
Yes, I'm projecting. I'm actually projecting, so that's why I'm asking if it does reflect on your side.
We can't see it yet, sir. If you may try to.
Okay, let me do it like this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, it has been just said to me that we should continue with the next speaker while we are still checking the technicalities with regards to the projecting of Mr. Posoko presentation. Our next speaker is the speaker that is from State Information Technology Agency, and the next speaker has accomplished is an accomplished ICT architect with extensive expertise in data, artificial intelligence, enterprise architecture, and cybersecurity. He is currently serving as a data and AI architect at State Information Technology Agency, where he contributes to shaping secure digital infrastructure and driving innovation in public service sector, in public sector service delivery. He has built a diverse career across leading organizations such as First National Bank, Deloitte, City of Cape Town, and others, holding roles including infrastructure architect, security architect, as well as the cyber risk manager and architecture solution. Through these diverse positions, Mr. Celisa has driven initiatives and security architecture governance, business continuity, and large-scale digital transformation across both public and private sectors. Academically, he holds a BSc from the University of Pretoria, a certificate in strategic business management, a certificate in IT business executive, and he is recognized as Chartered Chief Information Officer through ICIPT. He also holds a certificate in cybersecurity professional practice and leadership from the University of Witwatersrand, strengthening his expertise in cybersecurity strategy, governance, and leadership. His professional and research interest lies in leveraging emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and big data to build secure, scalable frameworks that strengthen resilience, enhance citizens' trust, and position technology as a catalyst for democratic participation and sustainable digital growth. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome onto stage Mr. Nelson Celisa from State Information Technology Agency. We can just give him a round of applause as he is taking the stage.
Good morning. Can by show of hands, colleagues, show me how many of you have TikTok on their phones? Don't worry, I'm not gonna hack you. How many have Facebook? Uber Eats? So how convenient does that make your life? Very nice. I'm just going to try to get my presentation up so that we can have an interactive sessions between us, since all of us are colleagues. But what I do want to correct is that my surname is Celisa. It's Southern Sotho. It's written with S-E-L-I-S-A. But when you pronounce it, it's Celisa. So, haki introduce I get nugget thank you so Celisa. That's me. I would try to see if I can get it up. If not, then we will continue without it. Are you able to see it? Is it? It's fine. All right. So the topic today is basically the role of the youth in shaping the future. And the reason I initially asked colleagues that how many of us have TikTok, how many of us have Uber Eats, these are applications that we use on a day-to-day basis. So the convenience that we have using those applications, how far can we then stretch it that we can then also use it in e-voting? So we're going to say then, can technology make voting cool again? But then we also need to define what do we say when we say cool. Is cool being fashion? Is cool being? But in the sense of application driven, we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about safety, transparency of the applications that we are using. So I will go through some of the key pillars that I believe would actually help us engage as the youth into being attracted to voting again. So one of the pillars that I need is that the voter participation is very key. So in the past election, so we're not going to use words like wrong or anything, but we're just going to see and talk about what had happened previously. So if you look, I'm not sure how many of you have seen videos of when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and there's whole jubilation celebrating up until we get to a point where our, in this case, grandparents, our mothers, our uncles, and all of them are going in the long queues to vote, you know? So you look at the excitement that they had at that time, because it was the first time and it was giving them a moment to say something. So the times are not the same, but the principles are still the same. We then can still use what we use on a day-to-day to bring that same energy, to get our say as the youth, to say, we would like this to happen. We would like these people to lead us. We would like certain individuals to guide us in terms of leadership within what we believe. So what had happened was long queues, which right now, the reason most of you have Uber is because you don't want to go, you know, to wait at the pizza shop waiting for the pizza. You wanted the conveniences of being delivered to you. The limitation in terms of those colleagues, those friends, those families who can't vote because they're living abroad. So what we then say is that there was the whole globalization, say that we needed resources from South Africa to be placed in. So, but then by putting them in those areas, what we then take away from them is that ability to vote in their area. So how then do we now include them as well? You know, we know what had happened was past the 1994, we go through 1999, all the other elections. There was a little bit of a youth decline because there was no longer interest. Youth would rather go and do what we call cool things than go to vote. So how do we then get them? So, and in essence, how can then, you know, we have identified what had happened, and then how then can we say how e-voting can help, you know, online? And the reason I said, how many we have applications, we can then build applications that are very data limited so that we can be able to use on our mobile devices. So you look at, in terms of how we can then, if we have mobiles, we then put in and put in as mobile first participation. In Africa, in most African, you go to Kenya, you go to Uganda, they don't have banking systems like we do. They use mobile money, they use M-Pesa, which they do on a day-to-day to buy and those things. And meaning that if we can then trust such thing with our monies, including banks, we can then also try to put the same technology into place to secure our voting. So what we then say, e-voting can assist with the remote enabling for those who are in diaspora and mobility. Also, you know, most youth, we look at, the reason you spend a lot of time on TikTok is because it is engaging. Once you are in there, it keeps you rolling, jiggy, you have missed the time to study, you have missed the time to submit your assignment, you are working throughout the night to catch up, you know? So if we can then get the e-voting to become a little bit of modernized, voting, we can be. You look at where the situation back then in 1994, you look as the technology we move, we can then say how e-voting can actually drive into voter participation. The ballot papers, the shortage, the delays, this is what all happened. Errors in voters' roll, manual counting. My colleague mentioned that they create slow and contested results. And e-voting can definitely assist. So we look at the digital ballots, eliminate the shortages of printage and error shortages and printing errors. Real-time voter verification. If you noticed, if you use these banks, when you want to go in and activate a card or something, they will tell you, please make sure that you are in the camera or something that they can take a screen. a picture of you, and then it goes to Home Affairs and verify you. Then why not we use the same technology? So you see, we do have the technologies that we can actually put them together and use them so that we can then move all these election logistics and operations out of the way. So this is where we're talking about now as we start. Countries like India and Brazil, they use what we call these voting machines where it's in a very controlled setup. And then this is what we might adopt in the earlier ages. My colleague mentioned this as well, as we're talking about the hybrid models of adopting the e-voting. We then, again, look how it will help. The real-time voters verification, the faster electronic counting of, quicker, more reliable results, because we can actually audit trail and see what had happened, who voted, and when did they vote. And, it also provides quite a little bit of, brings another aspect in terms of trust and transparency. The reason you are having bank accounts and your money, it's in the bank rather than under your mattress, is because you trust the bank more than you trust your own mattress. But truth is that in order for you to have that trust, a relationship between you and the bank was built, in a sense that you know that the bank will tell you each and every transaction that has happened and why it happened. So it shows you that it's very transparent of the transaction. Even if they are fraudulent transaction, they don't hide and say, hey, this one, they will catch us, that's some fraudulent. It will show that this transaction happened, and then you will query the bank, like, but I did not do this transaction. And hence, there's a bit of a trust between you and the bank. And then how do we put that transparency and trust within the voting? Voters can privately verify their own vote is counted, knowing that you have made a mark, you have said your piece, and you can confirm that you have done it. It gives you the sense that said, I'm the one who put this individual in there, I'm the one who didn't say a word because I had it in my hand, but I couldn't vote because of whatever reason. We talk about encryption and blockchain, which then increase the auditability of the transaction. So we call the voting would be a transaction because one person, one vote, as it is. So we can try pilot. There have been quite a few pilots where there's a show of blockchain which provide immutable tamper-proof of records. There's technologies that we call HSM, which is called hardware secure modules, which that device is so tamper-proof that even if you transport it and it has keys on it, the moment it gets shaken more than it's expecting, it feels like somebody's trying to physically break into it. Everything in that hardware crashes down. You can't even have access to the key. So by having understanding of these technologies that we see in telecom, they use HSM for your encryption to be able to make calls, end-to-end calls. In banking, they use those HSMs to be a financial transaction from end to end. So these are the technologies. We're not saying e-voting is going to introduce new things. We're going to now take all these existing solutions to build into what we then say can assist in e-voting and bring it and make it a bit cooler for the youth. Because, even myself, when I have to go vote, I always like, can we not do it by hand on the phone? Because we have a lot of trust that we have. My will is digital. My signatures that I do, digital. I have a digital identity on TikTok, Facebook, any social media. I have those identity. So we can then also extend the same to our government and say we can trust the digital identity that it will be protected because it is who we are, it defines who would be. So that one, it will allow us to have a trust and transparency and also allow us to have a secure voting. The risk, the security and access risk, previously you would find that they were, if you go to vote in this station and you're wearing a particular political party clothing, it's a little bit of challenge. There's a bit of intimidation happening. Rural areas, communities with poor access, having to travel mileage to the voting station, which then have a high cost in terms of running physical station. And these costs can actually be reduced by actually moving into e-voting. Secure remote voting, which now reduces intimidation. You don't have to worry that who said what, and you were told at the gate, you must vote for this party, vote for that party. You will make your own choice that you believe would benefit you and benefit the future, your future kids that are coming. And we can also have assisted kiosk and mobile platform to ensure inclusivity. We're talking about taking a kiosk into a rural area where there's poor access, and then providing them an access to vote, and then syncing it into the bigger, voting ecosystem, so that we can then have a little bit of connection back into the IEC voting systems. So what we then say is that if we now start taking cybersecurity as a national security, where we then say elections interference should be now considered as a state-level threat. In US and Nigeria and Kenya, they have some mitigation and all these things. We've seen them happen. And then what we then can say, how do we get, as South Africans, as a country, get ourselves prepared for both local and foreign actors in such a case? How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our identity? How many of you share TikTok account? How many of you share Facebook account with your partner? How many of you share any social media with your partner? So it becomes a bit of that identity that you can keep, even including this. This is how e-voting can also assist in. So then the other part is how we then deal with the education and the information. How are people getting informed about this thing? So if every time there's election, there's always this disinformation. There's always this, there's always that, this is that happened, the ballot paper this, that and that. All these things are separating all over the place. Then with that, then it limits the voters' education, and the rights and the processes on how actually it happens. So this is where then you find most politicians, that's what most youth would say, politicians have started, and then they then disengage from it. And then we then again say, how can e-voting help? We then say, the platform can embed education, so meaning it can provide secure. You know that you are getting the right information from the right people, which is IEC. They're telling you, this is where we are, this is the situation, this is the challenges, this is what we're happening. We're building a fact check reduces misinformation. You don't have to always believe everything that you read on the internet. It is cool to hear what people are saying, but how many of you have heard stories on TikTok and you realize that, no, actually, that was not it? Quite a lot. Even some of us, we see some of this information, we're like, it happens again. So interactive tools like your apps, your WhatsApp, all these things that are engaging the youth, that are always keeping them excited. How do we use them? We can use those tools to actually engage the youth to participate in voting, because I think by doing that, it will increase and allow the youth to shape the future that they want. The one thing is that there are a lot of organizations that are doing what we call threat hunting, and they try to assess where there could be threats against certain key points or against key asset that belongs to the state or individuals themselves. What then, for example, I can then say, I would like someone to actually assess my risk profile in a cybersecurity. What does my digital? You will find if I right now take your cell phone number and I go to the dark web and search using just those, there's quite a lot of information that I can find, even previous password that we can find. So then by using AI to monitoring all these things, which is already being used. Again, we're not coming up, we're not going to do something new. It's already being used. We then combine all these bits and pieces of these technologies, bring them collectively into a voting application that can be secure, can be well-informed, and can be very transparent and trusted by the youth, and can get the youth participating in it. One of the other things that I found out that keeps people glued up on TikTok is that there's live session on TikTok, which I discovered way late, where people are talking and having this, they're giving each other gifts and doing these things. And because of that psychology applied on how to keep users interacted, that's what we then from, South Africans and IEC can say, this is what we can leverage on. I think from my end, I have spoken about all this, and I now engage, I challenge the youth, and I challenge myself as well, is that, do you really want to make changes? Are you going to say, this is it, whatever happens, or are you going to say, I want to participate? Because surely then we can make, voting cool by actually making it more relatable to our time, Previously, it was cool for them to stand in long queues to vote because it was never a privilege. Now you have certain privileges that you can be, guided to use and make sure that you actually end up putting a say as a youth and shape the future of South Africa. And I think that's all from myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. Thank you once again, Mr. Celisa. I'm sure now it becomes more clearer as to where is South Africa is attempting to go in terms of voting. And you, the young people, you have been gathered here and you are being challenged to say that, are you really seeing this as something that is feasible? Is it something that you would love it to happen in your country, where the voting system can now be changed from what it is now to be electronic rather than manual, as it is the case now? Thank you very much. That was Mr. Nelson Celisa from State Information Technology Agency, who just came from Pretoria to ensure that this a program is successful and that certain things are being clarified to the young people. Now we are going again back to in ICASA, where we will be inviting now Mr. Silas Posoko, who will give us the presentation from ICASA. Over to you, Mr. Posoko. A round of applause, please, as he will be joining us online.
Thank you, Program Director. I don't know whether you see my my presentation now.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Program Director, and to the IEC at large, the local office in Port Elizabeth, the provincial management of the IEC, the IEC head office. It is indeed an honor to be invited to be part of this important engagement. The stability, as you know, of the democracies around the world depends on the integrity of the elections, or at least the perception thereof, because not only integrity is important, but also the perception that the elections are fair is something that is of utmost importance. So the security has to do with the perception. If people think that their data is not safe online, or if there are any compromises online, they won't be willing to to engage in such an activity, or they won't be willing to vote online. So it is indeed a huge task for IEC ahead, and I have you definitely need prayers, guys, to ensure that you maintain the integrity of the elections. As I said, as the program director said, I'm Silas Posoko, and I'm with the ICASA. Greetings to you all. I'll start with my presentation. As I said, the election security isn't just about protecting voting machines during the vote. It's much broader, more of a complex problem. Threats inside include supply chain vulnerabilities, the insider threats, weak identity management, and adequate verifications in the systems. Maintaining public trust in elections requires that not just processes, but also the supporting infrastructure are trustworthy and secure. Now, there are key components to strengthen election security. By the way, I was asked to talk about the election security, what can be done to ensure that the confidence is retained in electronic voting. So here are some of the key components that will strengthen actually the election security. The first one is supply chain risk management. So the management of IEC need to pay much attention on the vulnerability that can be introduced by the third parties. Third parties, it means not only the vendors where you buy your electronic machines that are going to be used in the process, but also the MMEs, those MMEs that you're purchasing from, they are buying from somebody else. They could be ordering those machines from China, from India, from Russia. So you need to develop that relationship with your SMMEs. You need to be able to audit their own processes, right? Because even though they are not a risk or you trust them, but the people that are supplying them with those machines could compromise the whole system. So you have a compromised software or firmware, you have a hardware tampering and a poor oversight. So that is on the side of the supply chain. So going into the electronic voting is going to require the IEC to not only do the normal vetting of their own infrastructure, but to also develop whoever you partner with, whether it's your consultants, whether it's your vendors, you need to be in their system as well. You need to have a representative there as well to make sure that the risk is not introduced into your own systems. So now, there is another strategy that's being used worldwide, which is called the zero trust philosophy or zero trust strategy. So what it says is that never trust anyone. Always you must verify. Whoever gets into the system, there must be at least a two-way verification. It could be through the facial recognition, and again, you must be able to send a one-time password to that person. So it must be more complex and not be compromised. So the approach ensures that every component, devices, identities, the applications, and the network are verified continuously. We'll go deeper into that as I continue. Now, there is an issue of insider threat management. Now, so the threat can be introduced from people with authorized access. The people that you trust can degrade the integrity, disseminate misinformation, and compromise system. How do they do that? You may find that somebody is employed by IEC, right? That person feels that maybe last year he didn't get a bonus. You know, the person that those petty issues, he didn't get a bonus, somebody got a bonus, shouldn't have gotten that bonus, and then now he's disgruntled. That person is very dangerous, right? So it can be, it can introduce the threat that was not expected. So we need to also look at the management of that insider threat. We'll go deeper into that as we go on. Now, there is an issue of the move towards more electronic voting interconnected system introduce new scalable risk to election integrity. Simple procedural lapses like failing to wipe all data from devices, right, can cast doubt on the election results. We'll also go deep into that. I'm just quickly going to start with the supply chain risk management. How can we manage the risk that is introduced by people, by third parties? It's called the supply chain, right? Now, what you need to do is, when you have consultants, when you have vendors that you are contracted to, you must be able to make sure that those vendors have the regulatory compliance. They follow, maybe for example, there's ISO 2701, it's international standards that ensure information security. You must be able to follow up on your every supplier to make sure that he adhered to those international cybersecurity standards. Now there's an issue of vendor information gathering. How do they gather information? Now there's an issue of vendor insider threat risk management. Now the vendors that you engage, you go into them, you demand that they show you how they manage the risks that can be introduced. Let's say, for example, you have an SMME, maybe from Motherwell there. The person you are trying to introduce them into or you are trying to give them business. You must also be in their business, because now what they are of much risk than the one that can be able to control inside. So you must make sure that those MMEs has a way of managing the risk. So you as a IEC must have somebody sitting in the committee that manage the risks in their own company, in the SMME that you engage, because it's going to introduce very serious threat to the integrity of the whole system. So now this is what is called the supply chain risk management. Third one is the vendor risk. Vendor information security best practice. There's a way whether you need to find out how do they manage the information. Do they encrypt the information, or how do they make sure that the information that they have in their disposal, or that they're entrusted with, or that they're managing, is protected? So the whole framework constitutes what we call a supplier chain risk management framework. So the IEC need to look at that, go to each and every one of them when they evaluate the MMEs. Basically, you can put it in the, when you advertise the tenders, can be able to put that inside the tender specification, just to make sure that the people that engage adhere to this very important thing that I've talked about. Now, there are best practice worldwide. You need to establish strong collaborative relationship with the vendors. Like I said, you need to be in each and every one of them's business. You must have a representative in each and every one of them who will make sure that they adhere to those things, that they don't, infect you with what infected them. So now the second is use a formal framework for evaluating and monitoring supply chain risk. Third one, be alert to threats such as malicious hardware, firmware, compromised software supply, and delays in critical election material. This one happened in physical or in electronics. It's going to be the same problem. So now there's electronic machines that can be maybe supplied after, you have a timeline to say this electronic machine must be supplied by this time. But if you don't, the whole thing is not well managed, you can end up the whole thing being compromised. Now, there is I talked about the zero trust philosophy or the strategy, which is never trust, always verify. Now, this philosophy or this strategy looks at different domains. It looks at the devices, it looks at the network, it looks at the application, it looks at the data, and then it looks at the identity. I'll go deeper into that quickly. Now, when we talk about identity, we say what needs to be verified. Now, there is issue of voters, there is issue of election workers, there's issue of contractors, the issue of vendors. They need verification, all of them. Ensure the strong identity verification and role definitions. So now, when you talk about strong identity verification, we're talking about maybe what I talked about, that you might use a face recognition. After that, you don't only do that, but you also use another factor. I'm sure you've heard about multi-factor verification methods, wherein after that, you send them a one-time password. They must enter that one-time password. After that, you must require the third one. So you make sure that each and every level the person who's going to interact with the whole system of the election is verified to the fullest, right? To make sure that if somebody compromise their identity, they can be able to also have a backup with the cell phone, because their cell phone will be with them. You send them the one-time password. After that, you use face recognition. So now the second one is with regards to the devices. There will be electronic voting machines, the tally systems, network and hardware. Now you need to ensure that they are secure, accounted for, tamper evident, with proper chain of custody. So now what we're talking about is that if I give you a tablet as a device, as an IEC worker, I give you a tablet. That tablet is left in your custody, right? You need to make sure that it's secured. So now as a IEC management, you'll be having a database of who has what, which devices, so that you know that when the threat is introduced at this locality by this device that was entrusted to this person. So you can be able to manage risk in case something happened. You can be able to isolate the problem. So the issue of keeping the records is very important, to say who was entrusted with what devices, where and when, so that you can be able to, like I'm saying to you, when the elections are disputed, we're going to go to those nitty-gritties to say who has what. And then we're talking also about the network, secure data transmission, segmented network and strong monitoring. So now what we're talking about, when we talk about secure data transmission, we're saying that from the moment, like the data in transit, it must be encrypted. Election data in transit must be encrypted in case it get intercepted. So you must make sure that whether in transition or in storage, that data is encrypted. Now, when we talk about segmented network, we're saying that, for example, there will be somebody who's managing this segment of the network, right? And then that person must be given credentials to manage this segment of the thing, so that you know that if there's any compromise, this section of the network was managed by this company. And that company doesn't have, it's not allowed to how can I put it, to be able to access another segment of the network, so that we can be able to isolate this thing. We're saying, for example, if we have 3 consultants that are managing different segments of the network, we must be able to say to you are Vodacom, manage this segment. We give you this credential to authenticate you, to only look after that. You're not allowed to go to another segment of the network, so that we can be able to isolate when we come to that. Now, there's an issue of applications. There is a software and firmware integrity, patching, and provident verification. Now, we're talking about the software that's being used in those electronic machines. The vulnerability can be introduced through that. There is and you'll read about it. There is another story of a company that was supplying software, for example, to the Electoral Commission in the USA. Now, this company is called the SolarWinds, right? The SolarWinds is a very big company. It provides software to your Microsoft, it applies software to your Google. It's a very big software company. Now, this SolarWinds, there is a company in Russia that were able to infiltrate them, right? So they infiltrated that software. So these people will take that software, sell it to IEC. I don't know I forgot what it's called, but for these papers, I'll just call it the IEC in the USA. So now, the IEC in the USA, because they trust this big company that sells the software, they bought that software. Now, because this Russian company has infiltrated that software, those people, in Russia, they were able to send a request for the users it was not only the IEC in the USA, but the Microsoft. There were companies that were supplying to Homeland Security, right? That purchased the thing from this company. So those guys, after they took over the software of this SolarWinds, they were able to ask the IEC in the USA for them to do the update. You know, the software need to be updated maybe after 6 months. They'll send you a message to say there's a new update. You need to update the system. So these people were able to infiltrate all these big companies, your Microsoft through the third party, your IEC through the third party, the military, the Department of Military in the USA through this third party. So they were able to actually gather information, personal information of the people who were the clients of the Microsoft. They were able to get the data, personal data of the military people in the USA. Through what? Through the third party, through compromising the third party. So you'll see how important it is to be in the business of the people who are supplying the software to you. So now the last one is the data protection. As I said, the protection of data, the ballots, vote counts, ensure integrity and confidentiality. Now, we're talking about the insider threat categories. Now, there is people who are working for IEC can compromise the elections for two different reasons. It could be intentional, the other one could be unintentional. Like I said, the first one would be intentional, where one or more insiders collaborate with external threat actors to compromise the election, whether paid or whatever. Somebody can just pay them. Somebody who's working for IEC to say, look, we are this party and we need around 1,500 votes to reach this threshold, and then this is how much we are prepared to pay. And because this is electronic, it's just a matter of adding numbers on the system, and that party receives that 1.5 that they need. So you understand, there is an issue of collaboration threat that is introduced there. Now there's another one that's intentional. Intentional meaning that somebody, a disgruntled employee, because he was, like I said to you, he didn't receive a bonus or for whatever reason, he decided to compromise the election. So that's intentional. Now, but there is another part that's unintentional, which is accidental, and that can be caused by people who are not adequately trained, right? They can introduce that particular risk. It's incidental. It means that it's not planned, but with training, the personnel, the last one is the negligence. Risk created because of the carelessness of disregard of rules and policies by the employees. Now, what integrated controls and recommendations are we making to the IEC with regards to the management of these risks? We're saying combine supply chain oversight, zero trust and insider threat management into a comprehensive risk management program. So we must have a strategy for supply chain. We must have a strategy for zero trust. We must have a strategy to counter the inside threat, right? So we must put them together to make it a comprehensive risk management program. Now, there should be a regular audit, testing reviews of practices and systems. Now, there should be a continuous training of election personnel. Like I'm saying to you, unintentionally, people can, compromise the whole elections. Now, lastly, there is a transparency with the public. You need to show steps, like when you do your community outreach, like the one we're having now, you must be able to show steps taken to secure the system. In that way, you're building trust in them. You must show them how their data is protected. In that way, they know that they can freely be able to supply whatever is needed, personal details needed of them, because they know it's protected. And this is how trust is then maintained. And it also helps to counter misinformation about your election. Now, in summary, what are we saying? We're saying election security is a multifaceted. It includes technology, it includes people, it includes process, it includes physical and cybersecurity component. So it's going to be a big task for IEC to manage. Like I'm saying to you, you need to be in the business of those who are in your business. Those who are giving business to, they must know and get used to the fact that you're going to be in their business, you're going to sit in their meeting, you're going to demand this and that and that, right? Now, there's a zero trust, there must be a zero trust and supply chain risk management are vital frameworks for raising the baseline of security. The issue of insider threat, we're saying to them, these are real risks and need to be need an ongoing management. It's not always simple to risk to manage this kind of risk because you can't develop a strategy because you don't know when is somebody going to be bright, right? But you need to be able to like I've indicated earlier on, able to manage this kind of risk. Now the last one is trust is much about appearance and perception, transparency, accountability, as it is about actual security control. So people need to perceive you as doing this. You actually don't need to be compromised, or your integrity doesn't need to be compromised for people to have that perception about you. People can just start spreading rumors that the IEC systems have this vulnerability and that. But with what you are doing, going to communities, communicating to them what we are doing with regards to minimizing the security, you are doing the most, guys, and you are building the trust in the whole system, and people will be able to engage or vote electronically. So in summary, this is what we have been talking about. We're talking about vendor risk management. We're talking about zero trust philosophy. We're talking about access control. We're talking about standard operating procedures. We're talking about chain of custody. We're talking about insider threat. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was Mr. Posoko from ICASA. And I'm hoping that you are noting the questions that you'd love to ask after the last presentation. Moving forward with our program, our last speaker in one of the panelists. Before I introduce this one, on a very light note, my name is Atenkosi, as I have said, and I'm about to introduce Atenkosi. Part of my job is to go around the schools of the Nelson Mandela region, presenting democracy, emphasizing on elections. I would ask to the group of learners to say, my name is Atenkosi, is there any Atenkosi that is here? And then they would say, yes, there is that one. And I would say, how clever is he or she? So now I can confirm that Atenkosi are big people. All right. The person that I'm about to introduce is an Associate Information Security Analyst with a National Diploma in IT Software Development and Advanced Diploma in IT from Nelson Mandela University. He was hired by NTT Data in 2024 after completing a cybersecurity internship there and is certified in over 10 industry certifications, including ones from Microsoft. A passionate innovator and leader, he is dedicated to using technology for social good. As part of a team in 2020, he developed a chatbot that helped victims of gender-based violence discreetly and safely capture evidence for court cases, a project that earned a second place out of 332 participants in the Microsoft Safe at Home hackathon. During his time at university, He served as a vice chairperson of NMU Computer Science Society, where he successfully reinstated the society and helped bridge the gap between students and the technology industry. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite on stage Mr. Atenkosi Sajini, who is from NTT Data Technology.
Is it still good morning or? Okay. Yo, my battery. They say they save the best for last. So yeah, I'm hoping, yeah, this will be the best. I'm just trying to open up this PC so that, yeah, you can see what I'm gonna present. Yeah, while I do that, I just wanna ask and try to make this engaging, right? I believe there's a lot of students right here. So I just wanna ask by raise of hands, who knows what is an antivirus? I mean, a virus. Does someone know what a virus is? A virus. Growing up, we used to carry USBs, and we used to be told that if you connect a USB to a certain laptop, just be careful if there might be any virus on that USB. Does that make sense with anyone? Yeah. So, yeah, I'll be speaking about those kind of things, right? Because those things still exist, right? Viruses still exist, and they exist in such a way that they challenge and try to break systems of organizations that have already been built, right? So there's that. I also want to ask by raise of hands, how many of you check like security, like updates on your phone? When your phone tells you that you need to update your device to the latest software that has been released by Google, do you update your phones, guys? Yes. Do you? Yes. Okay, that's good. We have a good audience here, a cyber-aware audience, because that's quite important that we become cyber-aware, right? Because updating your device is really important so that you have the latest security patch, because I can tell you this, from my world of work, every day, the vendors that we use, namely Microsoft or CrowdStrike, there's a lot of them. Hackers always are looking out for those vendors, whether they have been updated or not. And if they have not been updated and are running on the oldest version, hackers penetrate those vendors and they, try to break into organizations. And one of the things that they do that is quite prevalent is something called ransomware. So when they manage to get into an organization, they encrypt the data, right? So when I say encrypt, they just, so you have the data, right, that is stored, that is easily accessible to you, but now it won't be accessible. They will hide that data, and it will actually require a key for that data to be unlocked. But then for them to give you that key, they say to organizations, you must pay us 20 million or $1 billion, right? They do that. It's called ransomware, right? So they do that. those kind of risks that are there. So that's why in our organization we always make sure that everyone is updated on the latest version of that VENA that has been released, right? Because that's quite important. Who also, I want to ask again, you have smartphones, I believe almost everyone who's here. Who knows those sites, when you access them, they give you ads. There's like QBDs, those who watch football, there's like strikeouts that you access. Do you sometimes find those sites, they give you ads that they say you must click this because you will win 1 million or something, right? So, guys, I think this is the importance of raising a cyber-aware nation. And I know the president is trying by all means to introduce cybersecurity in schools so that you are cyber-aware. And when I say cyber-aware, you are aware of what is happening on the internet, on the world of internet. So those ads that you see there, there's like technical terms that are associated with those things. Some names are like phishing, some names are like, yeah, there's a lot of names that are given to them that are associated even to those ads. Some of them is called adware, right? Because when you click some of those links, they will actually, or even automatically, download stuff you didn't intend on downloading, and those stuff become downloaded on your device, and your device now is in a threat of being hacked, right? So you just need to be careful on those things. But yeah, my name is Atengosi, ladies and gentlemen. It's just good to know that there's another Atengosi here. Yeah, that gives me confidence at least to do this presentation. That yeah, I have another mate with me. Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, even as I've prepared for this. So yeah, today I'll be presenting on a crucial topic for the future of democracy for our country. That is cybersecurity in online voting. And this presentation will first explore the challenges, and these challenges I've put in scenarios so that what I present makes some kind of sense to you, right? I don't want to present a theory that is far-fetched. I want to give you a scenario, paint a picture for you of what are those kind of challenges that do exist. And there is an array of challenges, guys, because where I work, in my field of work, hackers, every day they try to find sophisticated ways of hacking and breaking into organizations. So as much as we do have cybersecurity technologies that we use to curb those sophisticated attacks, sometimes it's hard, even for like the biggest vendors like Microsoft to handle those kind of sophisticated attacks that they bring in this world of online. So, yeah, I'll just be going through those challenges and also paint a picture of the importance of IEC having different types of security layers, right? A security layered approach is quite important. You can't just have one security layer. And in my world of work, there's a lot of security technologies that we use to make sure that an organization thrives, that an organization is safe, and that an organization is not impacted. One thing in cybersecurity that is important, right, in the world of cybersecurity is something called the SIA triad. It's confidentiality, right? That's what I learned in my internship, that companies want, and even those companies with their clients and customers want data and their applications to be, and the data that they're hosted on those applications to be confidential, right? They want integrity, right? And they also want availability, right? You can't have a software, you can't have, I'm sure like you've seen with certain apps that I will not mention that are associated with some organizations. There are times where you need, for example, to do a transaction on a certain app, but then it says on that app there's actually an error, you can't do that. You want to make an emergency EFT to your grandmother who needs to go to hospital, and that certain app is not available. Cybersecurity, that's a vulnerability, and cybersecurity is there to curb those scenarios. Okay, so yeah, let me just mention my first scenario here. So let's start examining some of the challenges, right? So scenario one, you have something called a denial of service attack, right? So on voting day, on election day, right? They say this is happening in Johannesburg. So you find that the main voting portal that you are on, perhaps using that device, is hit with a massive denial of service, right? And just to explain that, in simple terms, guys, so I do understand, I don't be carried away by this technical jargon. What I mean is that you have this voting portal, right, that you use through that device. That voting portal has something called a server in the background that you don't see, that manages all the data that flows, that makes sure it keeps your IDs, keeps your data, it keeps the vote that you make, right? You have servers. And the gentleman there who was presenting spoke about network segmentation, right? Because a network, just to also give you a background and make you understand, you can have a simple network where a simple network is like connecting your phone to a router for public Wi-Fi, right? That's a sort of a network, right? But for online voting, you can imagine the kind of complicated designs for networks that can be, and these hackers try to build things called botnets, right? Bots or digital robots that try to act as if it's someone who's legitimate, who's trying to make a process or who's trying to vote. They're able to make millions of accounts. Hackers are able to make millions of accounts and try to overwhelm those servers with a lot of requests. And you find that those servers that keep that data, they fail, they crash, right? So those things are real, guys, and those things are things that IEC needs to be aware about. And yeah, I'll address some of the solutions to those things. Yeah, scenario number 2. So we have a manipulation, right, via hacking. As I've said, and as I've given the example of ads that you find on the browser, right? They say you must click on this website, you must click there. They try to manipulate you to doing something because you feel like you're gonna get a reward. And mind me, perhaps I'm a student in the rural areas and broke, NSFAS hasn't even released my allowance, and I find something online that says I'm gonna get $1 million. I am gonna press that link, right? I am gonna press that link and try to find my like. So hackers try to use these manipulation tactics to hack organizations and try to break into those systems and gain unauthorized access. And one type of way that they do that is hackers are able to use something called an SQL injection, right? So an SQL injection, also in simple terms, a hacker is able to, so when you input your data, right, a hacker can sign up on an online voting portal that has been created, but that hacker can be able to to manipulate the system into receiving data it should not be receiving. And that data can actually run in the background to have visibility into the database that actually stores this important confidential data. Hackers do that, guys. And my daily job on a day-to-day as an analyst is to analyze those kind of activities that try to break into those organizations. And scenario number 3. Scenario number 3. So let's just say in the Eastern Cape, right, there's a community leader with limited digital literacy. they receive a WhatsApp message that looks like it's from IEC. They click a link and enter their details, which the scammer then uses to cast fraudulent votes. This just illustrates that security isn't just about technology, it's also about user education and protecting against these manipulation tactics. And in our cyber world, we call it social engineering attacks. We must ensure that the system is not only secure, but it is easy and safe for everyone to use. I think the gentleman also said at the start of the day today that it is important that if IEC is going to have a voting portal, that portal is easy to understand for a simple layman, right? That is easy to use and that it is efficient, right? Because we are finding that there is this curve of digital illiteracy within South Africa, which is something that is real. You can't be making a voting portal that is too complicated for people to understand and to use, right? Scenario number 4. So on scenario number 4, I already told you about a network, right? That you can have a network, like your phone connecting to a router, right? So within that network, let me also give you another scenario. When you are in Boardwalk Mall, right, there are other types of Wi-Fi's that you can connect to, right? And let me tell you this, guys, if no one told you, connecting to a public Wi-Fi is a bad idea because hackers are there. There are Wi-Fi that are made available that are actually not for your code, that can actually steal your data. So let's just say in this scenario, in a small town, a resident votes on their phone using that free, unsecured Wi-Fi at Boardwalk Mall, for example. And then the hacker on the same network performs something in our cyber world which is called a man-in-the-middle attack, right? It's when a hacker tries to intercept your connection that you are making to their Wi-Fi, which is public Wi-Fi, which is malicious, which you thought was secure. They try to intercept your credentials and your ballot information, and then it allows the hacker to alter the vote or steal information. This just highlights the need for secure communication channels and robust encryption to protect voter data, no matter where they are voting from. So there's that thing that also IEC needs to be on the lookout, because you can have valid users trying to connect or use public free Wi-Fi's to cast a vote, right? And how do you protect the voting portal as IEC, right? I'll speak on some of those solutions. So the first thing I think that is quite important in security, this first layer of security, it's authentication, right? Because you can't just have a voter being able to just punch in their password and get access to votes. Because, I mean, guys, I can just, if you don't even have on your phone a password to open your phone, I can just take your phone, go on Google Chrome, because a lot of people, mind me, are lazy to save their passwords. They always save them on Google Chrome. I can go to Google Chrome, check your password and check your username, and I can take those details and try to log in myself, right? Without any sort of authentication that actually validates that you are the rightful person to log into that system. So that is why now, as you also, some of you have said that you do use Uber Eats, right? When you log in on that app, you can notice that you don't just log in. You have to verify that you are the rightful person of that device. That can be them sending you a code on your email, or them sending you a code on your phone, or them actually calling you through a bot to just confirm that it is actually you, and you actually, and then the bot actually says, is this the rightful person accessing this Uber Eats? And you press 1, and you actually validate that it is you. So that security layer of authentication is quite important, right? And is something that needs to be looked into by IEC. And there's different ways to authenticate a person. You can authenticate with a device, camera, your face, right? You can also authenticate with a fingerprint. But then we need to also be mindful that there are certain devices that do not have a fingerprint, that do not have cameras that are working. So using OTPs and phone calls to verify the validity of the user can be seen to work. Yeah, so I just have this diagram there, right? Yeah, let's just talk about solutions now. There's something called a firewall, right? A firewall is a critical component, right? Now there's a certain type of firewall called a web application firewall. It is designed to protect the website. Also, just to paint it in simple terms, I'm sure you've seen bouncers in restaurants and in clubs, right? And in clubs. A bouncer won't allow you in a club if you are carrying a malicious, knife or a gun, right? Because there are rules for you to enter in that club or restaurant that you must comply by. So a firewall is like that. It is a system that is on devices, right? That ensures that any flow of information within that network is valid and is allowed, right? A firewall is able to block, for example, in the context of IEC having a voting portal, IEC is able to see that, okay, this device that it is trying to vote actually has a bad IP address or a unique identifier for that phone, and they can actually block it, right, using rules that they have set on their firewall to inform, yeah, which type of connection can be made. And I think I've spoken about network segmentation, right? This is where now you have your servers, not just in one single network, you have your servers in different parts within this big network. Because as I've also mentioned the example of botnets where hackers try to build a lot of bots to try to overwhelm the system, you do not want to see a server or one part. You don't want to have all that information in every administrative task being performed on one part in the network, because if that part gets to be breached, the whole system is down, right? You do want continuity, you do want availability, so you have to have these different now parts that actually serve different purposes within this network to mitigate the attack surface for the hack. So in my world of work, right, we have a thing called endpoint detection and response, right? It's a cybersecurity technology that provides continuous monitoring of devices like servers and administrative computers. Unlike traditional antivirus software that block known malicious files, an endpoint detection and response system focuses on detecting suspicious behaviors and activities in real time, right? In my world of work, right, when I sign in at work, I sit down and I open my PC and I open different screens on my laptop or on my PC, right, of EDRs, of this endpoint detection and response systems, right? Because we do serve clients, and there's a number of clients that we serve that I will not mention at our organization, like big ones, whether it's banks, government, different sectors. We're able to see through this endpoint detection and response, we're able to see all the activities that happen in that organization. We're able to see people trying to execute PowerShell commands. We're able to see people trying to upload sensitive information where they shouldn't be uploading it. We're able to see people trying to take sensitive data out of the organization, right? And we're able to stop that, right? And with EDR, it even gives you the capability, if you see a threat, right, such as these examples I've made, we're able to switch off that device completely and quarantine it from the whole organization so that that device which is corrupt and have succumbed to that threat does not affect the whole organization. So we do that every day. We continue to monitor those organizations and their whole ecosystem of devices. Also one thing that is, and actually finally, one thing also that I mentioned that organizations want in cybersecurity, right? They want data to be confidential. They want the data that is flowing within the endpoint ecosystem to be safe, right? And how and what technology might be there to actually look into that data. We have something called data loss prevention, right? Preventing data from going out of an organization. There's a number of vendors, even through Microsoft. There's Microsoft Payview, there's Netscope. Yeah, there's just a number of technologies there with rules that are configured to protect against accidental or malicious data leaks. Because dealing with confidential information such as IDs, you do want to have a system that is able to see where that data is stored, that is able to see, okay, this person within the organization is trying to take that voter's information and trying to upload it to Gmail, to their personal Gmail, right? And you have that system actually being able to stop you from doing that. Yeah, there's one client I also want to mention that, which is a university, which at my company, where I work, we continuously monitor the data that flows within that estate, whether are there any data leaks that are happening, are there any people within the organization that are trying to take that data out, and we try to stop that. So, yeah, what I'm trying to say in summary, there is a lot of security layers that IEC needs to look into that can actually work and make sure that the voting that will happen actually happens safely and securely, right? So yeah, in closing, I'll also just mention one bit, right? I think for IEC it's gonna be important that they mandate themselves into educating South Africa, right? Education can be pushed through TikTok, as the gentleman here have said, can be pushed through TikTok, Facebook, WhatsApp. Even WhatsApp now has a thing of chatbots. You are able to create chatbots that users can interact with on WhatsApp, because I've seen that a lot of people are on WhatsApp. A lot of population is on WhatsApp, right? Because WhatsApp is also like cheaper for your data, and some of the population is on Facebook Lite. You are also able to make chatbots that can educate users about the being cyber responsible, right? So that as much as we do have security tools available, we are able to also merge that with the user education. So yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah.
Another round of applause. Thank you very much. That was Mr. Atenko Sisajini from the ANTT data. And I'm also hoping that you are writing questions. Remember, we also have got the audience that is using our online platforms. We will also take their questions when that time comes. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I am allowing the manager in the provincial office, IEC provincial office. I personally choose to call him one of the architects and cornerstones of the South African democracy, particularly in the Eastern Cape province. Reason being, he worked tirelessly in the Electoral Commission since its formation, starting from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission when South Africa was trying to find answers on things that happens and atrocities that were committed during the era that we came from. That's the person that I am about to introduce to make comment as the provincial manager of IEC is Mr. Siyabonga Maki, who is the provincial. Can you give him a round of applause? Just before I hand over the mic to him, on a very light note, the attire that he is wearing was designed before the formation of the political party that wears colors like he is wearing. Over to you, Mr. Maki.
Oh, greetings to the chairperson or the facilitator of the program, and greetings to our panelists, our guests, and afternoon greetings from the Provincial Electoral Officer, Ms. Kayakazi Makutumane, to the inhabitants of this institution at all levels. I know that I'm not on the program, I'm not planned to be on the program, but I rise to just give some background and some fundamentals on what we are talking about. Firstly, as you will be doing your research as to when this discussion started, you will find that it started way back in 2013. 2013, there was a discussion such as this one that took place internationally, but the host, it was hosted in Cape Town at the time. And as you would know that buy-in is needed from stakeholders. And at the time, the political parties being the main stakeholders of the elections did not accept this kind of approach. They were saying that the level of e-education, because we are a rural country, so to speak, we were not ready for that. And then fast forward to last year when it resumed. The question will be why now? Mainly because COVID-19 taught us a lot of things, including working remotely. So it is felt that the time to start with discussions of this nature have come. But as we are going to be entertaining questions, Program Director, I want to just highlight a few fundamentals, as I would call it, so that our discussions and questions are directed accordingly. The first one is that we are not talking about e-voting that will be implemented in 2026 local government elections. We are still discussing getting views from different stakeholders as we have just received now. And we are not talking I-voting, we are talking e-voting. I-voting is where you are thinking about voting sitting at home. This approach, this discussion, ladies and gentlemen, is based on an assumption that you will still go to a voting station. But there, instead of finding a paper to write on, you'll be confronted with a machine. It is called poll site voting. Poll site voting. Poll meaning polling station voting. And in order for us to get to where we are wanting to go, legislation will have to change. Because currently legislation talks about voting using a ballot paper. Now, these are things that must direct us as we engage, so that we do not ask questions assuming that this thing is in existence now. Now, somebody or in some quarters, we are told that what we are talking about will be way too expensive. So, you know, the usual discussion, why not take this money and direct it towards that and that and that? It is an investment that we are anticipating and we have to pay for it. But let me draw a comparison, saying that we are currently using what is called voter management device. And to procure that, it took about $500 million. And compared to the number of voting stations, staff there, that must be there. Because it means if we are using a machine in a voting station, then it means we'll have to hire less people than we currently do. And think about, as an advantage, a case where now you can start talking about the realization of what we call harmonized elections. Harmonized in that we run national, provincial, and local government elections all at the same time. Because now you know that we manage national and provincial elections, and 2 years later, we manage local government elections. So we must think about that as we think about a budget that will be involved. And towards the end, I want to say that this should be an easy exercise for students, panelists, in that already we are seeing that SRC elections are managed using e-voting. So they have started to do it. And they are going to tell us how easy it is, you know, to design the machines and all. And as we engage again, let us think about countries that started to use e-voting, but have since changed their minds. A close example is in Namibia. Namibia first used it, but they decided no. There are many other countries globally that are changing their minds. And very lastly, these presentations, ladies and gentlemen, all of them that we have received here are warning us of what is at stake. They are telling us what to do in order to get to where we want to go. I wish to let me end here and wish to have engagement from the students. And I know that there's somebody who has been tasked to thank the panelists, but I want to thank them on behalf of the Provincial Office of the IEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Manager. That was Mr. Maki from the Provincial Office of the IEC, and he is working there as the Provincial Manager. At this point in time, I wish to also announce the following, that if you still have those, if you feel like you want to send your inputs and as well as your deliberations, you can use the following email address. It's called evoting@elections.org.za. You can do your submission using that email address. Remember, this is a process where every discussion, every idea, every a contribution will be collected to ensure that it informs the policy decision-making of the country, in ensuring that before South Africa decides to go to e-voting, every voice should be heard and every contribution should be taken into consideration. I now call Ms. Tumeka Diko, who is the local electoral project officer at the Electoral Commission of South Africa in the Nelson Mandela region, to facilitate the question and answer session. So it is that time now where you are required by show of hands to raise your hand and also either give your comment, your contribution, your question, or your suggestion to this very important gathering. Let's give her a round of applause as she is going to take over this session. Over to you.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Chaka. I'll be doing the last session of our today's event in terms of questions, comments, and everything else that will come from the floor. I would like us to take this approach when you are raising your question. You indicate where are you from, and in terms of the panels that we have, you indicate which one your question you are directing into. As manager has just indicated now, that as the commission we are doing this engagement, we are still on a research process to see how it, as stakeholders are viewing the e-voting, not e-voting. So we'd like to have a perspective from the young people as based on our youth, where we're saying we want to see in how e-voting can be cool in terms of young people. I will take a first round of questions. Then the panelists will respond. If we have follow-up questions, I think we will also do a follow-up. Is that fine, Program Director? Or has he left the venue? RS, is that fine, that approach where we take a first round, get responses, and then if there are follow-ups, and then we do that? Is that fine for us? Okay, thanks. Let's go, colleagues, to our first round of comments. Any more clarity that you need from the panelists? Can we go? We have Mr. Tab. Okay, there's a first speaker. I think I'll just take first 4, and then we get responses and then do. So, ma'am, you number 1, you number 2, you number 3. Is there a hand on this side? Number 4. Okay. Let's start. Tipos, ma'am here is wearing a jacket. Yes, that one.
There we go. I don't know if you can hear. All right.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'd like to greet the panelists as well and everyone that's here. My question, I liked what Mr. Nelson Celisa said about making voting cool again. My question now is that whilst we're on that topic of making things cool, and speaking about voting, and I think it also falls under politics as well. And I'm seeing that amongst young people, right? The main struggle when it comes to voting is not necessarily us not wanting to vote, but I think there is a struggle when it comes to politics and having an understanding of politics on its own, right? Because I feel like young people lose the interest there. They don't know what it's all about. And now when you're saying, please vote for this political party, and say for instance, I think one of the panelists mentioned something about rural areas, right? We're finding that, for example, as Black people, we're coming from schools that teach us certain things in our native language. For example, isiXhosa. So now there's this person or young person who's used to hearing a lot of things in their own language, and now they're looking at the people that are standing there, political parties telling us, for example, about manifestos. I doubt most people know about manifestos as well. I don't think they know about that when it comes to voting for a political party. Now, they're listening to this person using languages or kind of words ezinkulu that they don't understand, yabo. And then we're also expecting that person to come and vote for a political party, bengayazi nalento bathetha ngayo, yabo. So, when it comes to that, now, how do we then bridge a gap in ensuring that people, or young people, are interested again in voting, right? Because I feel like even when Mr. Setisa was speaking, he asked about what happened, right? We have to first look at what happened, what made young people to lose the interest in voting. So I think we also need to understand that as well and try to find ways to bridge a gap so that they don't only understand voting and the importance of voting, that when you vote, it's you putting a print so that your voice can be heard. So I want to know that, like what now can be done when there's that in mind in young people. People are not interested in voting because of that. And also, how can we make sure that when people vote, they don't just vote because, this political party Ndive from a friend of mine, and they saying this is what is happening about it, but how can we make sure that young people are aware of manifestos as well, before even taking that decision to say, okay, I will vote. Thank you.
Second one. Greetings first to the panel. Greetings to the panel first, and then greetings to everyone on the floor. My name is Siamthanda Kanti. I come from an organization called the South African Red Cross Society, which is an NPO based in humanitarian work. So I worked for the IEC 2 times. The first time I was a ballot paper issuer and an inker. Then the second time I worked at the registration site using that PC over there. So now I initially had 5 questions, and then now I dotted it down to 4 questions because the 5th one, Mr. Mnikeni had already answered it for me, which is in regards to the youth. So 3 of the first ones are directed to IEC specifically. And then the last one is for the cybersecurity and IEC. Now, the first one is that, how is going digital going to benefit people who are not computer literate? In my experience in the voting stations, there are political parties. Political parties fight the fact that an IEC official goes to help someone on the booth. They always fight that. They don't want IEC officials at the booth because they don't know which political party that official is associated with, especially in older people. And now, the second one, with regards to the ballot paper issuers. Since we are going digital, it means that there won't be any ballot papers. So now, people who are being hired to do the counting of ballot papers, is this transition going to affect their jobs or not? The third one, what I noticed in voting stations is that IEC hires the same people all the time. For instance, when I was working at the IEC, I noticed that it's the same officials all the time, especially in the top level, the people managing the voting stations. And those people are old. If I can make an example, at the voting station that I was allocated to, both times it was teachers that I know, which is they have permanent jobs. But now, you guys are saying that the theme of today is mainly focused on the youth. Is it possible for you guys to train us as the youth for those top positions? Because the youth is unemployed, we all know that. We are #1 in the country, in all countries, of youth being unemployed. So is it possible for you guys to train us for those top positions so that the next time posts are available, you know that we take this particular youth and train them for those jobs? And then the last one, the one that I said, is directed to cybersecurity and IEC. There is a link that is trending on WhatsApp whereby it says you have to share the link to 10 or 20 people on your WhatsApp list in order for you to access the IEC link for the jobs. Is it legit or not? Or is it a scam? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Annelise Luponwana. I'm a groundbreaker at Love Life. I have 2 questions here for any panelist. First question says, what are potential benefits and challenges for implementing e-voting in South Africa? Then the second one says, how can youth contribute to shaping the future of democracy through e-voting? I thank you.
The last one is the judgment with the red.
Greetings to our panelists and all students and everyone that is here. My name is Mnikeni. I'm a student from Tandukolo Campus. I have 4 questions, by the way. My first question is I want to ask that with the IEC. The IEC has a history where the people that are employed by IEC in voting station, they are recurring or buying votes or voters. So I want to make sure that how does the IEC to make sure that where in online voting there will be no recurring, because last year 2024 national and provincial elections, in campuses or in wards, there are campuses of higher institution of learning. There were issues that the system is offline for the whole day, where it happens students couldn't vote, some of them. So I want to make sure that this online voting, how is going to make sure that it is flexible for everyone and there will be no issues in terms of entering a website of theirs. My second question is that, I want to comment on this thing. It will help many young people because young people don't want to go to the voting station to vote. So it will help many young people across the country when you launch this e-voting. My last question is that, how we are going to make sure that there is no loss of jobs, because there are people in voting stations that counting votes. So now when you are using online voting, the system is going to calculate by itself and give, that means there will be no use of counting voters. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the first round of questions. I think it arrests that we start with the ones that are relating to us as a commission, because I believe you will have just short answers for those and a quick, clear answer, because most of them that are relating to us, it's mostly on recruitment that we do in terms of the question that was raised and how ballot papers now will be used in terms of counting, which is relating also to the last speaker in terms of recruitment. Ne? Thanks.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon again. I will start with the one of awareness of manifestos. It is the duty of political parties. It is the duty of the political parties to present the manifestos to their voters. It is not IEC duty to ensure that voters, they understand the manifestos. Remember, IEC, it is an independent institution to manage only the elections. So manifestos belong to political parties. Ne? Then moving to lack of information and bridging the gap on e-voting. We have a program that we are running that is called e-voter education, that we normally educate people, even the student. I think we have seen some of our staff visiting your campus to do e-voter education. Ne? So we have that program that we are running that is called Schools Democracy a Week, where we educate people on how to vote and also on how to register. And if you look on your portal and your notice board, you can see our poster is there also. This is part of e-voter education that we are conducting as IEC. Coming to speaker number 2, Usiyamthanda, the digital people that are illiterate in terms of the e-voting, how are they going to manage to use the e-voting machines. Mr. Maki mentioned on his presentation that there will be staff that will be at the voting station to assist the illiterate voters. He also mentioned that it will be a poll site where we still open our voting station and the operations will happen, and there will be staff that is trained on how to use the machines. I'm also combining Siyamthanda, the ballot paper issuer jobs. We are saying that there will still be our staff to monitor the machines when we are implementing the e-voting. In terms of the recruitment of teachers, remember on the advert of a presiding officer, we need resources. We need someone who has a vehicle. Because remember, we need to use also the schools. We don't own the schools. Hence, we will always prefer to use the teachers. We do employ young people on other positions, but remember the position of a presiding officer, it needs someone who has 8 years experience on managerial skills. We need managerial skills. Hence, we always prioritize the teachers. In terms of the link that is circulating, IEC does not circulate any links. It is a scam, that one. Smamkele, I think your question was similar to Siyamthanda. Remember, in terms of the counting staff at a voting station, we are using same people that were operating the machines in the morning. So meaning that they are not going to lose their jobs. Because the same people that were operating the voting station in the morning, during the counting time, they changed to be the counting officers. So they are not going to lose any jobs. I thank you.
Thank you very much. We can move to the following person.
I think my response to making e-voting cool. So I think my colleague mentioned that there is a lot of awareness, and it is not the responsibility of the IEC to actually engage. So I think we need to look as a community, what culture do we have, and emphasize as learning. So even with IEC, they understand that we have 11 official language, 12 being the sign language, right? So when they do these awareness, we should be challenging them to say, are we doing this awareness in those 11 languages so that we can understand what are they saying to us? Same goes with the political parties. The manifestos, it's within the political parties' own way of marketing and trying to lure you to vote for them. If they are coming to Free State and they are speaking Chivenda and they expect us to vote for them in that space, then it is up on them. So I think there's a bit of a separation where we say, what culture do we expect IEC as an independent? They are only afforded an opportunity to give a fair and independent elections by providing awareness to that. So I think we also need to take on ownership as community, saying, I want to participate in this, and therefore I don't understand what is going on. How do I ask? Who do I ask? You challenge IEC, say like, I don't understand what you are sharing with this information on us. It's in English and I'm struggling. Can we get a translator to do it in Xhosa? We can then get to that. Those I think are challenges that if we bring them to IEC, we can actually. But then the challenge with the cybersecurity question, I think this one, we're going back to that misinformation. You know, I always see, not only within IEC as a whole, but if you go, there's always websites, they tell you that in order for you to apply, you need to share, you need to look and be aware and apply your mind and say, IEC is recruiting. How come is this now website coming from a funny name, .gov.something? Why is it not electron or election as we know it? If allow me to use if CETA is recruiting, CETA, you will never find a link that says CETA is recruiting, share the link, and then you have ABCD at CETA with a capital I, and then .co.za. You need to pay attention to those things. Be well informed. And that's where my colleague mentioned that if we start practicing a culture of cyber awareness as us, you know, if I ask you right now, the PIN that you have for your bank card, have you shared with anyone else? You don't. Why? Because you want to keep it. Your Facebook account, why do you not share it with anyone? Because you want to keep it. Because now you need to pay attention to those things. Keep your digital identity, keep yourself aware of these things so that you can be able to, I always say, if you want to practice cyber awareness, practice with yourself. The banks tell you that do not share the PIN, or else if your money gets stolen, don't blame us. The same thing happens. If you are applying, even the labor law, I've never seen anywhere where it say you have to pay a certain amount to get a job. Those things, you report them. If it's in a company anywhere, you report it to that company. There's anonymous tips that you send. We're like, this advert, someone is saying we must pay this money to this. Please verify. So I think we just need to start take ownership and say, this is my information that I'm sharing. Am I sharing it with the right person? There should be a lack of, where we say zero trust. You don't always trust. You always verify who you're sharing your information with. Thank you.
I think I'm just going to talk to, there's a lady who asked about a question about youth inclusion and challenges with e-voting. How does one get to involve the youth? I think today is a practical example of that great start of including the youth, that you were invited and you are here, and here you are given a platform to ask questions and give your input honestly so that they can take that input. So I think today is a very good start to answer that question. If maybe you were not able to access IEC, management, even outside this question and answer session, you can talk to some of them. So I would say to that question, you being invited and actually honoring this invitation and be here is a practical example to answer that question. And I'm sure there will be other initiatives to try and invite you and to get your input on things of this importance and nature. Again, take the same approach. Whether you agree or disagree, with what is happening with the current status quo, participate, give your input. Like I said in the beginning of my remarks, that there are some who choose to stay away from voting because the perception is that, my opinion or my vote does not count anyway. Well, it does count if you voice it in the right platform. For an example, this platform, if it's voting, then you cast your eggs. So by being here, great stuff. There's a gentleman, I just forgot his name and his title, but I think it's from the province as well. He made a comment about something that I think it's important, was not asked as a question, but I might forget it. In terms of the other people who speak to this system and already they are trying to put cost as an impediment or as a challenge. Listen, my colleagues here can attest to this. One of the biggest opportunities that South Africa has at the moment from a public sector point of view is on collaborations, where government departments, they invest millions and millions on systems where, you look at Home Affairs, for example. A data about my identity sits with Home Affairs. But if another sister department wants to access that data, they must spend money to capture my data and also to utilize that data. Why do that when already Home Affairs has invested money on systems where the only thing they can do is to verify, is this transaction or this need really genuine? And if so, I imagine IEC, you'd be one of those departments. Access that for free and use it as you wish and to reduce your cost. The other thing, what I really like about South Africa, again, is this notion of using locally developed system and using locally based skills. A lot of our systems, we're still dependent on foreign systems, foreign developed systems. As a result, we must get, foreign-based skills to be involved in sensitive issues about our country, such as, elections and I did ask this question, and another, speaker also alluded to this, to say procurement processes are a risk. As soon as you go to a tendering system, you need to develop risk mitigating policies about that, because if you're going to use a third party, who's this third party? For an example, a laptop, what is this? HP. This is an HP laptop. That's not a South African-based company. If we use that company decides one day, you know what, you now need to adhere to how I want to do business with you. Our data, our process, our systems, and our elections, we are now at the mercy of this company. Whereas if we use our locally based, developed products and that have skills that are locally based as well, that risk would be at bare minimum. And I imagine the cost will also be reduced because foreign companies, they charge us on their foreign currencies as well. A typical example, very few people know about what CSIR does. And it's these guys, they develop world-class technology systems. And I thought I was going to forget that, but that's another way to respond to that cost-related challenge or question. Are jobs going to be lost when you introduce technology? Not necessarily. If you upskill and you move forward with times as things, they change, your job might be secured. It's just that you might not necessarily be the one issuing paper, but you might have a different job title now because your job is based on technology. So you can't expect to have a relevant job in 10 years down the line, whether there's technology involved or not. Doctors that treat us that we go to, they go through courses on an annual basis because there are new diseases, there are new ways of treating them.
Thank you very much. Thanks to colleagues. Can we then move, if we have the second round, can we make this one quick? We are running out of time. Okay. I think this one will be our last round. So I think I will take, I'm trying to get to to see, okay. I think I will take around 5 to 6 people. So there's one, there was a gentleman, 2, 3, 3, 4, ne? Ufuna uphinda mama? Okay. Saksu, you will be the last. Okay, Tibos, can we go to the lady just for the last round?
Good. Good. Niyandiva bethu? So, my name is Kulolwa Magugu. I'm from the East Cape Midlands College and from the Career Development Center. And we deal with a lot of students who are finishing their study within the college, and we try to link them with industry so that they can get experiential learning in order for them to graduate at the end. So for me, we deal with a lot of them, and they're very ignorant in terms of following up on voter registration and voting and everything, because nothing happens and they witness this happening, that somebody that they know had like this whole ballot box and they were voting all night or something like that. So it is not a true reflection of what should happen. That was just a comment and an introduction. But I'd like to give them information that is accurate when they are passing this information to us, and for us to be able to give them factual information on what happens. Now I'd like to, one of my questions, I think it's Mr. Kanti that spoke on it just now, in terms of the linkages to the Home Affairs. Our country is going through a lot of things at this stage, and unfortunately, a lot of things are surrounding undocumented illegal people that are holding South African IDs at this stage, because I decided to give my boyfriend or my neighbor my whatever ID that I have. So forgive me if this has been dealt with when I was like outside, but I want to find out the verification of the voters. Is there in your system maybe a fingerprint type of thing to verify? Because I'm assuming that if I put my fingerprint, then it should link to the Home Affairs to verify that this person's fingerprint, without using the actual ID, is the correct person that has actually entered and is voting. So that's number one. So I think with that Home Affairs link, I don't know at what cost, but is that an option, or is that something that you have put in place with this electronic whatever? We have witnessed in the American voting, whatever, there's lots of people there, but their systems are so fast that the results are not questionable, and their security systems are in place. I personally, as a South African, do not trust that there won't be interference from the higher ups, as we are witnessing now, that the people that are looking after us are not trustworthy. What assurance are you giving me that my vote will be counted towards the party that I want to vote for? That a certain party didn't go to international hackers or whatever, and they've made this deal, and yeah, no, their voting systems are secured, and that all party agents are able to witness that when I cast my vote, all political parties can see that I'm not influenced by anybody. Third question is, who's going to be auditing these voting, these votes that will be cast by South Africans? And the third one, wanted to find out, we know that there are people that are immobile in their home, and usually they cast their votes a day before the elections or whatever time that's prior to the actual national elections. With the absence, well, I don't know, maybe it's just my ignorance, but are the party agents going to be privy to the information, and when the person casts that vote, that my blind mother at home is casting for the party that they said they wanted to cast a vote for? So those are my questions around the safety and verification of I'm not against foreign whatever, but I would like to see the voice of the South Africans being reflected as they wish, because, I mean, I think it's clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Tipos, before we move to the gentleman, it's Ubudulona, ne? Colleagues, can I request that we try to get to the point as ne? Thank you.
Molweni mphakathi. Njengokubhuti betshilo uba heritage sonza ubetha ngesiXhosa ke mna ke ndingumXhosa. Bahlali, ndinguMasiXole wakwaJoyi, ndiphuma kwiThandeka Skills Development. Ndikwakhulunywa ne-Red Cross, ndiyivolontiya khona. Mna bhuti bam ndiyaqondisisa noba seyibethile le question benzayibuza, because of into benzayibuza yinto yokuba wabana ilaa nto ka njengoba mosikubhizi ubhuti bekwathetha apha ngekhul ntontoni yokuvota efowunini. So benzabuza mna bangabana bazokwazi njani ke ngoku into yokuba wabana mhlawumbi awuzivulelanga enye iakhawunti njengoba buzowenze ngoFacebook nentoni nentoni, ufumaniseke uba uvote kabini ngoku apho uvotele mhlawumbi umbutho wakho kabini apha kule fowuni. Mhlawumbi uzivulele enye ilenkanyana okanye iakhawunti eyesibini apha efowunini. Bazokwazi njani ngokuba ayisokulaa mntu umnye lona qha uvota kabini ngoku ngezinto ezidifferent. And then ke ngoku ndibuze okwesibini apha ku-IEC, phofu ke kulo nyaka uphelileyo I think ngoku bekuvota bendibona ii-politicians okanye ii-parties zingena ngokwe-area kulaa nto kwi-tax, kuthathwa abantu emakwabo bafakwe. Mhlawumbi mandithi ndiyi-AFF, ndithathe ngeteksi yabantu ndibafake phaa, ndibase kwi-voting station zabo. Ndifumaniseke apha njengoba silapha kule teksi ndiyabalontsa abantu uba siyi-EFF ke sawuvotela i-EFF no kusiyiwa phaa kwi-voting station. So u-IEC akanalungelelo lokuyingenela laa nto, anqande ii-parties into yokuba abana maziyeke uthatha abantu apha kilaa nto emakwabo babase kwi-voting station. Akanoyenza yena ngoku nokwakho u-IEC into enjalo. Nantsi into bendizozibuza ngezo zimbini noba ndiphume emcela. Enkosi.
Nami ndizibulisele, nami zohambelana noTamasikole, ndiyabetha ngesiXhosa. Mna inye into endifuna uyibuza ba ingaba le nto izawuba le nto kanjani, izawukwenzeka njani le nto njengoba siyazi zonke ii-systems zikagovernment ziyathanda uba offline, kuthiwa ii-systems zi-offline njengase-Home Affairs, ufike ngo-6 yogoduka ngo-3 kwi-system yayi-offline. So izawukwenzeka njani xa use-voting station phana kusetyenziswa i-system, mhlawumbi inethiwekhi ingabikho okanye laa nto ka zibe offline, kuzawukwenziwa njani for abantu uba mabakwazi uvota without laa nto?
Good evening to everyone and to the penalties. My name is Lesakanya Khala. I'm a groundbreaker at Love Life. I'm under the Department of Health, and I'm also the SENEC, the South African National AIDS Council, and the Civil Society Forum. I'm the youth leader in those two coordinating committees. Question is based on an IEC. You said that some other countries successfully implemented the e-voting, online voting, using the voting machines and the blockchain technologies, infrastructure using a hyperledger fabrics. My question is, it's based on IEC, why taking so long to explore those options? Because you said, what I've heard, you say it started in 2013, it's more like 12 years from that. Why taking so long of trying to find the best way of e-voting? Or is it because of the youth is lacking to communicate about what their complaints of something like that? Another question is, based on the blockchain technology, is IEC in use with the blockchain system based on e-voting? If yes, how does the blockchain works and what works, and what is the benefit of it? What role does the blockchain and other advanced technologies have in future of e-voting, and how can the youth be involved in its development? The last question, will the IEC online voting only allow South Africans to vote, or it will allow everyone who is in South Africa, even Nigerians, Indians, Muslims, to vote, and how it will manage to take such votes if it's going to allow everyone in South Africa? I thank you.
First time I didn't say Bangbani Kamalam, but Milani Wakakelemane, and I am in Pinchi of Life. So my question, I only have one, and I think Cece kind of mentioned it. How will e-voting cater for people living with disabilities? Thank you.
I think we are done with this round of questions. I would say just before URS take over, in terms of answering the questions, I think some of the questions that were raised in this round were already answered. That when Uputina was talking about cell phone voting, manager, as well as the speakers, they have indicated that the system that we as the Commission are engaging our stakeholders, it's an e-voting, where the plan is to procure machines that will be at our voting stations that we are currently using. Now, the engagement of today, it was meant to look on the cyber issue of it and the security issues. That was the main discussion of today, which is, I believe that it has been explained by both the panelist and manager that the Commission is still doing a research on the e-voting, but the plan, it is not for it is for e-voting, where we will thinking of procuring machines that will be at our voting stations that we use, not where a voter will be voting sitting at home. I think that one was alluded on by manager when he came and made remarks. I will start again where original supervisor will start, and then the panelist, because most of these questions still on this round, they are based on us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In terms of the link to Home Affairs, IEC system is linked with Home Affairs. Whenever you punch in the ID number of a voter, automatically it shows the details of the voter. So in terms of the security, we are not moving away from our voters' roll that we are using. The minute it's either if we are saying that we decide, as we said that this is a discussion, if we decide that we are using biometrics, meaning that your fingers will identify you as Ufikiswa join. So there will be no duplication of voting or multiple voting. And in terms of auditors, we normally get independent auditors to audit our results. Again, we are not taking that away. What we are discussing is the casting. We are not removing the legislation that is there, but what we are discussing about is the casting of a vote. How are we going to cast our vote? In terms of casting the vote at home, remember we said that we're still under a discussion. Whatever the machine that we will agree on, we will ensure that people that are unable to visit the voting station are catered. I think this one of multiple voting, it was a duplication, but we are saying that whenever you visit the voting station with the current system that we have, we identify a voter using their ID number and their ID that is linked with Home Affairs. Even if you have multiple accounts, the minute your ID is marked, you won't be able to vote. It's either if we are sharing because it's either we said it will be biometrics or whatever the reason it is, or your facial expression to identify yourself. So meaning that, obviously it will say error. The minute it says error, meaning that we'll need to do e-verification. Hence we are saying that the staff that are at the voting station will remain at the voting station to address those errors or issues. Then the transporting of voters to a voting station. Remember, we have a program that we call application of a special vote, which is home visit. So meaning that voters, they need to apply for a special vote if they're unable to travel to a voting station. In terms of the offline system management, each and every institution, they do have a backup system that cater for the offline management of a system. And I assure you, even on the e-voting system that IEC is under discussion with, they will have an offline management of the system to cater for unexpected issues. There was a question about what takes us too long to find solution to implement. Remember, we said that every voice will count. We even shared an email address where we can send our comments so that whatever that we are proposing, IEC will look at it and decide. The other one of the online e-voting, it will allow everyone to vote in South Africa. Currently, the system that we have, it's only South African citizens that can be given an opportunity to vote. Even if we are going on the online route, still it will remain as only South African citizens who can vote. And the last one of people living with disability. We are catering for people that are living with disability, even in the current system that we're using. And also on the e-voting, we will cater for people that are living with a disability.
I'm gonna just say one thing as a parting shot, then I'm gonna give to Art. I think the colleagues have actually covered the cybersecurity element very well today, and I was the only one who refused to be more technical in the discussion. I can assure you that South Africa, you know, in terms of cybersecurity, we are just like other top countries when it comes to putting measures in place to prevent it. Largely in security, you don't use reactive approach policies. You use proactive approach policies. This is why your RT has to constantly open his laptop and look at what's happening, even though nothing is happening, and that's him being proactive. We implement systems that help us to be proactive. We ask ourselves questions regarding, you know, what are these hackers trying to do now, and what can we do to have one up on them? Because a reactive approach, it's when you start moving when the system is down, crashed, or you are hacked. That's a reactive approach. So that means these guys are 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. But largely in South Africa, in the ICT industry, I can assure you that we use a proactive approach. We are always trying to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of them. Is security a risk? Yes, it is a risk. We constantly try in the industry to try and manage, mitigate, and lower that risk. The problems, they start arising when you don't use a proactive approach, and that's what I think my comment is directed to IEC, that in their quest in trying to move into e-voting and develop their system, they must consistently also look at this. Now today, proper ICT departments, they do not combine security with the overall IT strategy. They separate it because it has become, a burning issue, and it's a huge risk. In terms of storage, things can happen there, but we can quickly recover from that, right? But if someone has infiltrated your environment and they want a ransom to release your information and to grant you access to it. Now to some instances, companies can't even operate because their systems have been taken over by these guys. And that's why security has become the #1 thing. It's not how do I put it? It's not a special child in IT, but it is a special child in IT because a lot of problems have arisen from this. But South Africa, though, it does have some good systems in place. But it's a matter of IEC, as they develop their e-voting system approach, they consider this. And if they need to have engagements like this, but with security specialists, do so that you can have some information and make an informed decision. But be rest assured though that South Africa, in as much as this is really a problem, but we've got skills, we've got technology, we've got solutions. Artie spoke about layers. The other layer is to make sure no one enters. Then we think about the question, if someone enters, what do? We isolate the problem so that it doesn't affect the entire environment. If it has affected the entire environment, how do we use our backup systems and backup data to make sure that we continue working? We think about those things. So don't let this scare you to a point whereby the e-voting discussion, as soon as this is not addressed, it appears as if we are doomed. We are going to hell tomorrow. No. There is actually, an opportunity for us to move forward and to make progress. But those that make decisions, they need to consult with relevant stakeholders so that they can make informed decisions about those things. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to, I think there was a gentleman who asked, you find that in voting stations, since now there's this concept of online voting, there might be duplicate votes. How do we curb that? I think there was a security technology that I spoke about, which is data mentioned, right? So in a case where there would be online voting being implemented in South Africa, you can have something that actually monitors the data activity within that organization, within that estate. You actually have visibility into what is happening with these votes that are being cast. Your data is stored safely. Is there someone who has intercepted your vote, right? You do have those security technologies, but it is something that the IEC, I'm sure, will not implement in the near future because there are other dependencies there. But rest assured, I can tell you this, that there is security principles and technologies that are there to mitigate this kind of challenges that do exist. And I think it was quite unfortunate that we're not able to show you the kind of electronic voting machines that actually have been used in Brazil, Venezuela, and the USA. There's an electronic voting machine that actually does, like as you vote, you can cast your vote using a digital aspect of this machine. So this machine is powered by electricity, and should there be maybe a power outage in the context of South Africa, we always experience load shedding, it does have a battery as a backup for voting to continue. And this machine can scan your ballot paper that you have cast your vote in, and this machine is able to tell you in a friendly way, even it has, you can also like have add-ons to the machine, where if, for example, comes a person who's illiterate who doesn't know how to read, can take maybe earphones and put them on their ears, and it tells them if they have actually cast their X correctly on the ballot paper, or if they've made duplication of their votes. That paper can, like, that system can also just tell you that you have made duplicate X. Can you please take another ballot paper for you to vote? So, yeah, that is something that IEC is also looking at. But yeah, it's just a conversation that we're having, and I think the questions that you ask are quite good, and thank you.
Okay. I just want to say again, going back to, so there is a principle called, design, secure by design, which basically speaks around, if you're building a system, how do you go about ensuring that it is secured? Not secured after you have put it in place, but secured as you build it. So we look at the IEC e-voting as a system that we're saying we're going to build. There are things that we need to consider. We're going to say who are going to use this thing, this application, who are the users. We then identify those users. We then say, how do we ensure that we keep against the legislation of saying one vote, one person? We then say, okay, this is how we will put it, and then we put it through a rigorous process and put processes and governances around it to ensure that everyone is aligned with it. So there's also this thing of, I think we are now then comparing that application. I think Ubuti, like I'm a fake account, so and so. But what I do understand from that is that the fake accounts, the difference between what we are now discussing and being able to do fake accounts is that you find those on social medias where people have, because they're able to use them, create new ones by using cell phone numbers that they just bought a SIM card and that is already recorded somewhere. But when we look at what identify us with IEC, it's our ID number, and which is very unique. I am not sure if there's anyone who shares the same ID number as me, but for as far as I know, I'm the only one who has my ID number. All 13 digits, it's mine. No one else has it. We might share one or two. So when we look at this moving into, I think you need to see a solution that is IEC is trying to bring in to the citizens as saying, how do we get it with you on board it? You are the users of it. So the input has to come to you. These are the risks. And as we introduce new technologies, new ways of working, there will be mitigations that needs to be put in place. For example, on my presentation, I talked about what happened, you know. Those were the risks that were there then. And then how then do we mitigate them in today's? We can be able to mitigate them in today's way of working. We don't want to be stagnant. Estonia has a fully online voting system, you know. I think the manager mentioned that there are countries that went into e-voting and rolled back. And the reason is that this e-voting is not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all the problems in voting, but it can help a lot. If it is done properly, the security measures are put in place, the relevant stakeholders are involved, and then build with the secure by design principles, including zero trust, layer by design, we should be able to provide a secure e-voting system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think now this is the end of our discussions. I would thank you for the colleagues with the questions, grounding, as well as our panelists that were able to answer our questions. I think now as this group, if we are not now well informed in terms of what the organization, which is OIC, is trying to do, I think now this is our opportunity now to go to our website and Google, check the importance and what we as young people can contribute, because as the commission we are saying that for the next elections we are not yet ready, but we need your inputs for us to see how this thing can work for all of us, remembering our theme that as young people, how is it that we can make e-voting cool again? Because as the commission, we have engaged you today because we are missing the gap of young people that are not participating in our democracy activities. This is an opportunity for us young people to go and read more on the e-voting. At least today, we have something to start with. I will urge this group that we start going, do read about it. You know, most when you read about something, you tend to get more ideas of how this can work, how this we can, you know. And when we have those comments, as Mr. Chaka has indicated before, you are welcome to go to our website and also email your views. I know other people may not say today in the we have brilliant ideas sitting down, but you will want to write it down. So you are able to do that via email, where you will send your comments and suggestions for us as the commission when you send those to e-voting at elections.org.za. So it does not only end on this platform, you are able to take it further where you submit your comments and contribution in terms of e-voting. Thank you very much for being a lovely audience. I will hand over to Mr. Jack.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Diko. Another round of applause, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to come to the end of our program, but I must make this comment that it is very interesting and pleasing to see the curiosity that is in the audience, to see to it whether if this is adopted in South Africa, is it gonna work or not? I am happy that the discussion is not today. You also have got this email address that has been given here to say that you should also continue making your submissions to evoting@elections.org.za. Just before I hand over to Ms. Masekwana for her item to render, I wish to make the following utterances that the fourth industrial revolution requires us to really make things different and also to go with times. As you are about to make those submissions on that email address, you have to think of the following, that have you noticed that these days, even at tertiary institutions, you apply online. There is no longer those manual application forms. Well, other institutions do take them, but mostly now, the institutions are now going online. You may also notice that the University of South Africa, they do their learning online. So as you will be doing your discussions and also your submissions on that email address, you should also think that there were times where we were not able to meet like what we are doing today, the COVID-19 times. We had to use whatever that we have, the technology to ensure that we meet such as noba kukhona or Zoom meetings, we were able to communicate using online. And also, you should also ask yourself, we were from the eras where we were communicating with letters and also telegrams and all that. But today, we are communicating with cell phones. And not that just cell phones, you can even check from this house how many phones that do not have WhatsApp here. So all the cell phones now are having WhatsApp, which is something that was not the case before. We used to have Otilili, which we are no longer having them these days. And lastly, as you are doing, or before you think that this can be impossible, or as you will be thinking about hindrances and obstacles on e-voting, you should think of how many people in this country who do not have bank accounts. We're no longer using an envelope to send monies these days. So everything is becoming more digital and more digital. However, I just wanted to give you that as you will be doing your submissions. At this point in time, I wish to invite Andisiwe Masekwana, who is the Electoral Project Officer in the Electoral Commission of South Africa at Nelson Mandela Bay, to give us the vote of thanks. Let's give her a round of applause as she is coming.
Thank you, Program Director. Just to share on a lighter note, one of my colleagues, Mr. Yanga Ganyile there at the back, while I was about to take the stage, he's saying, I like to sing, by the way. So he just said, now, Mr. Kwana, don't forget to sing that song of yours. I used to sing a song that says, be bright in the corner where you are. I think that's a relevant song. However, I am not going to sing it now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As indicated by the program director, my name is Andisiwe Masekwana. I'm working here at Nelson Mandela as a local electoral project officer. My task is very short, however, very important. I am tasked to do a vote of thanks. Before that, if you read our theme for today's session, it is saying the role of youth shaping the future of democracy through e-voting. I think the previous speaker or speakers, they've indicated that the statistics of the IEC, it has been noted that the youth or the youngsters of this country, they do not participate on electoral democracy. We are here today to say or to check how can we make this voting more interesting, especially on these youth, these youngsters or the youth of this country. Because it is true that the future of this country, it rests in the hands of the youngsters. Without wasting time, allow me to say, on behalf of the Electoral Commission of South Africa in Nelson Mandela Metro, would like to thank everyone that is here, everyone that have made this day possible. First and foremost, to our distinguished panelists from different stakeholders, I will mention those. CETA would also like to appreciate and acknowledge the fact that that stakeholder, he traveled this morning, he took a flight this morning, I think he landed on about 20 to 9 or 10, I'm not sure. He took a flight from Joburg, and the commission, we did not pay a cent for that. Thank you very much, sir. Coming to ICASA, thank you very much, colleagues. Originally, you were supposed to be part of us here in this hall. However, due to some other problems, you couldn't make it. Thank you very much. Entity data, thank you very much, sir, as well as bonds or type technologies. We say thank you to our panelists for sharing first and foremost your time. You know, yesterday it was a holiday, it was a Heritage Day. I believe that most of people, they took their long leaves, but they are here. We do not take that for granted. Thank you very much. Coming to the youth, our youngsters, our next president is sitting here. Our next premiers are sitting here. Our next councillors, mayors, they are sitting here. Am I correct? Yes. We saying as the commission, colleagues, let's call you colleagues now, ne? Because we are all here. Thank you very much. In those words, we can see that our future, or the future of this country or democracy, it really in a, you know, but you can see through engagements, the questions that were coming from the floor, you can see that people are very interested. I hope, colleagues, now you will stop that thing of sitting at home, playing with your TikTok, your Instagram, Facebook, and so forth, but you will go to the voting station and take a decision, because it is not nice, or it doesn't look good when our parents, they take decisions for us. Because I'm sure it is their prayer that therefore, if we don't go and vote as youngsters, because as indicated before in the children, that the next president, it is here, the premier, the ministers, the councillors, the mayor, our council, it is here. So let's please make sure that we go in numbers in those voting stations, because I'm sure this e-voting, at least you will have an interest now to go to voting station, because there will be no long queues, because I know you are very impatient. In those words, not forgetting our viewers on our social platforms, those that are watching at home, thank you very much. Before I sit down, I have a few announcements to our panelists. One of our colleagues will usher you to the venue where you'll have your refreshments. I think only Jason will usher our panelists to go to the venue. We request that everyone remain seated, because you'll be served in this room. Thank you very much.